The black SUV pulled up outside the modest apartment building at exactly 9 p.m. A man in an expensive suit stepped out, his polished shoes clicking against the pavement with mechanical precision. He knocked 3 times, firm, commanding, inevitable. Inside, Sophia Whitmore's hands trembled as she recognized that sound, the sound of her old life catching up. "Miss Whitmore," the voice came through the door, cold and professional. "Your father is requesting your return." Daniel Brooks stood frozen, watching the woman who'd been renting his spare room turn pale as a ghost. In that moment, he realized he knew nothing about her at all. But before we dive into tonight's story, I need to ask you something. Stick with me until the very end to see how this unfolds. And please, hit that like button and drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I love seeing how far these stories travel. Now, let's go back to where it all began. 3 months earlier, Daniel Brooks sat at his kitchen table at 2 in the morning, surrounded by a battlefield of unpaid bills. The fluorescent light above flickered. It had been doing that for weeks, but replacing it cost money he didn't have. Everything cost money he didn't have. The notice from Emma's school sat on top of the pile. Overdue lunch account. $47. It might as well have been $4,000. Daniel rubbed his eyes. His hands still stained with engine grease he couldn't quite scrub away. 14 hours at Morrison's garage today. 14 hours of crawling under rusted trucks and coaxing life into engines that should have been retired years ago. His back ached. His shoulders felt like someone had tied knots in the muscles and pulled them tight. But the pain wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the math that wouldn't add up no matter how many times he tried. Rent, $1,200. Due in 5 days. Utilities, $340. Past due. Emma's after-school care, $280. Very past due. His paycheck, after taxes, $2,100. The numbers didn't lie. They never did. And this month, like the 3 months before it, they told him the same brutal truth. He was drowning, and the water was rising faster than he could bail. Daniel stood and walked quietly down the narrow hallway, careful not to wake Emma. Her door was slightly ajar, and in the dim light from the street lamp outside, he could see her small form curled under her blanket, clutching the stuffed elephant that had been Sarah's last gift to her. Sarah, his wife. Gone 4 years now, but the absence still felt fresh some days, like a wound that had scabbed over but never quite healed. "I'm trying, baby," he whispered into the darkness. "I'm trying so hard." Emma stirred slightly, mumbling something in her sleep about purple dragons, and Daniel felt his chest tighten. 6 years old. She should be thinking about purple dragons, not noticing when her father bought the cheapest cereal or when her clothes came from the discount bin at Goodwill. He returned to the kitchen and stared at the apartment's second bedroom. Sarah's old office. For 4 years it had been a storage room, a shrine to a life that used to be. Boxes of her things. Her desk. Her books. Her presents, frozen in time. The room was worth at least $600 a month, maybe more. Daniel had avoided this decision for years, but tonight, staring at those bills under that flickering light, he finally accepted what he'd known all along. He needed help, and he needed it now. The next morning, after dropping Emma off at school, Daniel sat in his truck in the parking lot of Morrison's garage and did something he'd been dreading. He pulled out his phone and opened a rental listing app. The cursor blinked in the description box, mocking him. What do you say when you're renting out a room in your life? He started typing, then deleted it. Started again, deleted again. Finally, after 10 failed attempts, he settled on something simple. Private room available in 2-bedroom apartment. Quiet neighborhood, 15 minutes from downtown Portland. Shared kitchen and bathroom. $600 per month, utilities included. Looking for a respectful, quiet tenant. No smoking, no pets, no drama. His finger hovered over the post button. This felt like surrender, like admitting that he couldn't do it alone, that he was failing at the one job that mattered most, taking care of his daughter. But Emma's lunch account was overdue. He pressed post. In fact, the responses came faster than he expected. By lunch, his phone had 17 notifications. By the end of his shift, 32. Most he deleted immediately. The guy who sent a shirtless bathroom selfie. The woman whose message was just party-friendly with 6 question marks. The couple looking for a temporary open-minded situation. But one message stood out. It arrived at 7:47 p.m., just as Daniel was washing up after dinner. Emma was at the table behind him, working on her homework with intense concentration, her tongue sticking out slightly the way it always did when she was focused. The message was brief and professional. Hello. I'm interested in the room you posted. I'm 27, currently studying graphic design online. I keep to myself, I'm clean, and I can pay 3 months up front if needed. Would tomorrow afternoon work for a meeting? Coffee shop of your choice. Sophia. 3 months up front. Daniel read it again to make sure he hadn't imagined it. 3 months would be $1,800. That would catch him up on everything. Everything. The utilities, the after-school care, Emma's lunch account, and still have enough left over to fix the truck's transmission that had been grinding for the past month. It felt too good to be true, which usually meant it was. But desperation has a way of quieting the cautious voice in your head. Daniel typed back, tomorrow at 2 p.m., there's a coffee place called Merrick's on Foster. I'll be the guy in the Morrison's garage shirt. The reply came within minutes. Perfect. See you then. Merrick's Coffee was the kind of place that tried too hard to be quirky. Mismatched furniture, chalkboard menus with overly clever drink names, local art on the walls that looked like someone had spilled paint and called it profound. Daniel arrived 10 minutes early and ordered a regular coffee. None of the caramel, drizzle, mocha, whatever nonsense. He sat by the window and watched the street, wondering what kind of person Sophia would turn out to be. At exactly 2 p.m., a young woman walked in. She was tall and slender, with dark hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. She wore jeans, a plain gray sweater, and white sneakers that had actually been walked in. Not the pristine kind people bought to look casual. No makeup that he could see. No jewelry except for a small silver watch. She looked normal. Refreshingly, almost suspiciously normal. Their eyes met, and she offered a small smile before walking over. Daniel? She asked. That's me. Sophia? Yes. She shook his hand, firm grip, direct eye contact, and sat down across from him. Thank you for meeting me. Sure. Can I get you something? Coffee? Just water would be great, actually. Daniel ordered her water and returned to the table. Sophia sat with her hands folded, looking comfortable in the silence. That was the first thing he noticed about her. She didn't seem bothered by quiet moments. Most people rushed to fill the space with nervous chatter. So, Daniel began, you're studying graphic design? Online courses, Sophia confirmed. I'm working towards certification. Most of my work is digital, so I can do it from anywhere. What kind of graphic design? Mostly branding and illustration, small business logos, book covers, that sort of thing. Freelance work while I build my portfolio. Daniel nodded. It sounded legitimate. And you're looking to rent a room because... Oh, because I need a quiet place to work and live, Sophia said simply. Somewhere affordable where I won't be bothered. Your listing said no drama, which is exactly what I'm looking for. The apartment isn't fancy, Daniel warned. It's small. The building is old. Sometimes the heat doesn't work great in winter. I'm not looking for fancy. And I have a daughter. She's 6. Emma. She's 6, so sometimes it's not exactly quiet. For the first time, Sophia's expression softened. I like kids. What's she like? Daniel felt himself relax slightly. She's great. Smart. Talks constantly about horses even though she's never actually met one in person. Draws pictures of dragons. Makes up songs about her day. She sounds wonderful. She is. Daniel paused. Her mom passed away 4 years ago. It's just the 2 of us now. He wasn't sure why he added that last part. It just came out. Sophia's eyes held genuine sympathy. I'm sorry. That must be incredibly hard. We manage. Daniel shifted the conversation back. So 3 months up front, that's a lot of cash to have sitting around. I've been saving, Sophia said evenly, and I prefer to have things settled, less complicated that way. Something flickered in her expression, just for a moment, but Daniel couldn't quite read it. Look, he said, I should be honest with you. I've never rented to anyone before. This is new for me. The room was my wife's office, and I've been using it for storage. It'll need to be cleaned out. I can help with that if you'd like. And we'd be sharing the kitchen and bathroom. The apartment isn't big enough for anyone who needs a lot of space. I don't need much space. Daniel studied her. Everything about this felt straightforward, but his instincts were nagging at him. Something about the way she answered questions, truthful but carefully so. Like she was giving him exactly what he needed to hear and nothing more. Can I ask you something? Daniel said. Of course. Why aren't you renting a studio or something? With 3 months' rent saved, you could probably afford your own place. Sophia didn't hesitate. Because I just don't want to live alone. I've spent too much time alone already. I'd rather have roommates, even if it means less privacy, than come home to an empty apartment every night. The honesty in her voice surprised him, and the loneliness beneath it felt familiar. Daniel made his decision. All right, he said. If you're serious, the room is yours. $600 a month, first and last month upfront to start. We can do 3 months if you want, but 2 is enough for now. Relief washed over Sophia's face. Thank you, really. When can I move in? I need a day to clear out the room. How about Sunday? Sunday is perfect. They shook hands again, and this time Daniel felt like maybe, just maybe, he'd made the right choice. Daniel spent all of Saturday clearing out Sarah's office. Emma helped, though her version of helping mostly involved pulling things out of boxes and asking what everything was. What's this, Daddy? That's Mommy's old camera. Can we keep it? Yeah, baby, we'll keep it. What about this? That's a snow globe from our honeymoon. Where's honeymoon? It's not a place. It's a trip people take after they get married. Oh. Emma shook the snow globe and watched the tiny flakes swirl. Mommy was pretty. Daniel looked at the photo she was holding, Sarah laughing on a beach somewhere, her hair wild in the wind, her smile bright enough to hurt. Yeah, he said quietly. She really was. By evening, the room was cleared. Daniel vacuumed, wiped down the walls, and even fixed the window that had been stuck shut for 2 years. The space looked bigger than he remembered, emptier. He stood in the doorway, and for a moment, he felt Sarah's absence like a physical weight. I hope I'm doing the right thing, he whispered to the empty room. The room, as always, didn't answer. Sophia arrived Sunday afternoon at exactly 3 p.m. She pulled up in an older Toyota Camry, nothing flashy, and stepped out carrying a duffel bag and a backpack. That was it, 2 bags. Daniel had expected more. Everyone had more than 2 bags. This is everything? He asked, helping her carry them up the stairs. I travel light, Sophia said. Emma was waiting at the door, practically vibrating with excitement. She'd been asking about the new lady all morning. Hi, Emma announced the moment they walked in. I'm Emma, and I'm 6 3/4, and I like horses and dragons, and I drew you a picture. She thrust a crayon drawing at Sophia, a stick figure with long dark hair standing next to what appeared to be a purple dragon. Sophia took it with genuine care, studying it like it was fine art. This is beautiful, Emma. Is this me? Uh-huh. And that's you with a dragon friend, because everyone should have a dragon friend. I completely agree. Sophia smiled at her, then at Daniel. You were right. She's wonderful. Emma beamed. Daniel showed Sophia to her room, suddenly self-conscious about how bare it looked. There's a closet here, and I cleared out these drawers. Bathroom's down the hall. We'll have to share, so just knock if the door's closed. Kitchen is, well, you saw it. Not much, but it works. It's perfect, Sophia said, setting her bags down. Seriously, thank you. Sure. Here's a key. Front door and mailbox. Make yourself at home. As he turned to leave, Sophia spoke again. Daniel, I really appreciate this. More than you know. Something in her voice made him pause. The gratitude seemed deeper than it should be for a simple room rental, but he just nodded. Welcome to the building. The first week was quiet, almost too quiet. Sophia kept to herself just as she'd promised. Daniel would leave for work before she woke up, and when he came home, she'd be in her room with the door closed, soft music playing, classical piano usually. Sometimes he'd hear typing, sometimes nothing at all. She was clean, she was quiet. She paid her rent in cash exactly on time. It should have been perfect, but Daniel found himself unsettled by how little space she took up, like she was trying to be invisible. The bathroom looked untouched after she used it. Her dishes were always washed and put away immediately. She bought her own groceries and kept them on one shelf in the fridge, neatly organized and labeled. It was considerate, respectful, and somehow lonely. Emma, however, had no such reservations. By the third day, she'd taken to knocking on Sophia's door every evening. "Can I show you my drawing? Do you want to see my rock collection? I learned a new song at school. Want to hear it?" And Sophia, to her credit, always said yes. Daniel would hear them through the door, Emma's chatter and Sophia's patient responses. Sometimes Sophia would ask questions, genuinely interested in whatever 6-year-old wisdom Emma was sharing. On Friday evening, Daniel came home to find them sitting together at the kitchen table. Emma was coloring and Sophia was sketching in a notebook, her pencil moving in quick, confident strokes. "Daddy," Emma announced, "look what Sophia drew." Sophia tilted the notebook toward him. It was a beautiful sketch of a dragon, detailed, intricate, and decidedly purple. "For Emma's collection," Sophia explained. "She told me her wall needed more dragons." "It does need more dragons," Emma confirmed seriously. Daniel looked at the drawing, then at Sophia. "You're really talented. Thank you." She seemed genuinely pleased. "It's been a while since I drew just for fun." "Well, Emma's apparently a good client." "The best client." Sophia ruffled Emma's hair, and Emma giggled. Something warm settled in Daniel's chest, something he hadn't felt in a long time. The apartment felt less empty. The second week, things began to shift. It started small. Daniel came home one evening to find fresh bread on the counter, a note beside it in neat handwriting, "Baked too much. Please help yourself. S." The next night, there were cookies. The night after that, Sophia was in the kitchen making pasta when he arrived. "I made extra," she said casually. "If you guys haven't eaten." They hadn't. Daniel had been planning to heat up leftover pizza. The three of them sat at the small kitchen table, Emma swinging her legs and talking about a girl at school who could touch her tongue to her nose. Sophia listened with complete attention, asking follow-up questions like, Emma's stories were the most fascinating things she'd ever heard. Daniel watched them and felt something crack open inside him, something that had been locked tight for 4 years. "This is really good," he said, gesturing to the pasta. "Where'd you learn to cook?" "My grandmother," Sophia said. She insisted everyone should know how to make at least 5 things that didn't come from a box. Smart woman. She was. Sophia's smile turned sad. She passed away a few years ago. "I'm sorry." "Me too." They ate in comfortable silence for a moment, and Daniel realized this was the first real meal he'd shared with another adult since Sarah died. All his dinners were either alone while Emma slept, or quick bites standing at the kitchen counter between tasks. This felt normal, like family, and that terrified him a little. By the 3rd week, a routine had formed. Sophia started cooking dinner 3 or 4 nights a week, always making extra, always casual about it. Daniel would come home to the smell of garlic or herbs or something baking, and Emma would be at the table doing homework while Sophia worked on her laptop nearby. They'd eat together, talk about their days. Emma would perform elaborate shows involving stuffed animals and plot twists. Sophia would sketch. Daniel would finally relax for the first time since his shift started. Some nights, after Emma went to bed, Daniel and Sophia would sit in the living room and talk. Not about anything heavy, just life. Sophia would ask about his work, and Daniel would tell stories about the garage. The regular customer who insisted his truck ran on prayers and duct tape. The teenager who'd brought in a car held together with wire hangers and optimism. Sophia laughed easily, her whole face lighting up in a way that made her look younger. "What about you?" Daniel asked one night. "What's the weirdest project you've worked on?" "Logo for a business called Mullet Maintenance." "That's not real." "Completely real. Landscaping company run by a guy with an impressive mullet. Wanted it incorporated into the design." "Did you do it?" "Oh, absolutely. Professional integrity demanded it." Daniel laughed, really laughed, for the first time in months. But even as they grew comfortable with each other, Daniel noticed things, small things that didn't quite add up. Sophia never talked about her family. When he asked where she grew up, she'd give vague answers. East Coast mostly. Moved around a lot. She didn't have social media, or if she did, she never checked it. Her laptop was expensive. Too expensive for someone paying rent with saved freelance money. And once, when Emma asked to see pictures of Sophia as a kid, Sophia had gently changed the subject. Daniel told himself it wasn't his business. Everyone had things they didn't want to talk about. Privacy was privacy. But late at night, when he couldn't sleep, he'd wonder who Sophia really was, and why someone so clearly capable of more was choosing to rent a room in his rundown apartment. One Saturday morning, Daniel woke to the sound of laughter. He stumbled into the kitchen to find Emma and Sophia making pancakes, or rather, Emma was helping while Sophia did damage control. There was flour everywhere, on the counter, on the floor, somehow on the ceiling. "We're making breakfast," Emma announced proudly. "I can see that." Daniel surveyed the disaster zone. "Should I be worried?" "Probably," Sophia admitted. She had flour in her hair and was grinning. "But we're committed now." They ate misshapen pancakes drowning in syrup, while Emma narrated the entire cooking process in exhaustive detail. Sophia caught Daniel's eye across the table and smiled, a real, unguarded smile that made his heart do something complicated. After breakfast, while Emma watched cartoons, Daniel and Sophia cleaned the kitchen together. "I'm sorry about the mess," Sophia said, wiping down the counters. "I should have been more careful." "Are you kidding? Emma's having the time of her life. A little flour is worth it." Sophia paused, her expression turning soft. "She's a special kid, Daniel. You're doing an amazing job with her." The compliment hit harder than it should have. "I'm just trying not to screw up too badly." "You're doing more than that. She's happy. She's confident. She knows she's loved. That's everything." Daniel didn't know what to say. He scrubbed at a stubborn spot of batter on the stove, his throat suddenly tight. "Can I ask you something?" Sophia said quietly. "Sure. Do you ever, I don't know, let yourself have help? Or do you always carry everything alone?" The question caught him off guard. "What do you mean?" "I just noticed that you work constantly. You take care of Emma, the apartment, everything. But you never ask for anything, not even small things." Daniel stopped scrubbing. "I guess I'm used to managing on my own." "I know, but you don't have to." Sophia met his eyes. "I'm here, not just as a tenant, as, I don't know, a friend maybe, if you need one." Something in Daniel's chest loosened. "Yeah," he said. "I think I could use a friend." Sophia smiled. "Good. Me too." Nah. The following week, Daniel's truck finally gave up. He was halfway to work when the transmission made a sound like a dying animal and simply stopped working. He coasted to the side of the road, called Morrison to let him know he'd be late, and tried not to calculate how much this would cost. The tow truck driver quoted him $150 just to get it to a shop. Daniel sat on the curb and put his head in his hands. When he finally made it home that night, having bummed a ride from a coworker, Sophia took one look at his face and asked what happened. He told her. All of it. The truck, the cost, the fact that he couldn't afford to fix it right now, but also couldn't afford not to fix it because he needed it for work. Sophia listened without interrupting. "How much?" she asked when he finished. "For the transmission? Probably $1,200, but I can't. I'll lend it to you." Daniel stared at her. "What?" "I'll lend you the money. You can pay me back whenever. No rush." "Sophia, I can't ask you to—" "You're not asking. I'm offering." Her voice was firm. "You need your truck. I have savings. It's simple math." "It's not simple. That's a lot of money." "Daniel." She waited until he met her eyes. "Let someone help you. Just this once." He wanted to argue. Wanted to say no out of pride or principle or whatever stubborn instinct kept him from accepting kindness. But he was tired. So tired. "Okay," he said quietly. "Thank you. I'll pay you back. Every cent. I know you will." The truck was fixed within 3 days. Daniel arranged a payment plan with Sophia, $200 a month until it was paid off. She'd waved him off, saying it wasn't necessary, but he insisted. Some debts needed to be honored. But the money wasn't the important part. The important part was what it represented. For 4 years, Daniel had been an island, self-sufficient out of necessity, building walls because letting people in meant risking the kind of loss that had nearly destroyed him. But Sophia had quietly slipped past those walls without him noticing. She wasn't just a tenant anymore. She was part of their lives. Emma adored her. She'd started calling her Sophie and demanding that Sophia tuck her in at least twice a week. Sophia would read bedtime stories in different voices, making Emma shriek with laughter. And Daniel had started looking forward to coming home, not just to see Emma, but to see the warm light in the kitchen, to hear Sophia's voice, to share the small, ordinary moments that made life feel less like survival and more like living. One evening, about 6 weeks after Sophia moved in, Daniel came home to find her sitting on the couch with a guitar. "You play?" he asked. "A little. Emma asked me to learn her favorite song." She played softly, something gentle and pretty that Daniel didn't recognize. Her fingers moved with practiced ease, and when she hummed along, her voice was clear and sweet. Emma was curled against her side, eyes drooping with sleep. Daniel stood in the doorway and watched them, feeling something large and terrifying unfold in his chest. He was falling for her. Maybe he had been falling for weeks, and he had absolutely no idea what to do about it. The realization kept him up that night. Daniel lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, trying to be rational. Sophia was his tenant. She was young, 5 years younger than him. She had her whole life ahead of her, and he was a 32-year-old single father barely keeping his head above water. What could he possibly offer her? But then he'd remember the way she laughed, the way she looked at Emma with genuine affection, the way she touched his hand when she'd lent him money for the truck, her fingers warm and steady, the way she'd said, "Let someone help you." He fell asleep sometime after 2, his mind still spinning. Sunday morning, Daniel woke to find Sophia packing a small overnight bag. "Going somewhere?" he asked. She looked up, and for just a second, something like guilt flickered across her face. "Just a day trip. I'll be back tonight." "Everything okay?" "Yeah, just something I need to take care of." It was the first time she'd left the apartment for anything other than groceries or walks with Emma. "Sure," Daniel said. "Drive safe." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I will." After she left, the apartment felt too quiet again. Emma noticed, too. "Where did Sophie go?" "She had something to do. She'll be back later." "Oh," Emma frowned. "I wanted to show her my new drawing." "You can show her tonight." But tonight came and went, and Sophia didn't return. Daniel tried not to worry. She was an adult. She could go where she pleased, but by midnight, when her room was still dark and empty, worry settled into his gut like a stone. He texted her, "Everything okay?" No response. He lay awake again, listening for the sound of her key in the lock. It never came. Sophia finally came home Monday afternoon. She slipped in quietly, looking exhausted and pale. "Hey," Daniel said, relief flooding through him. "You okay? You didn't answer my text." "I'm sorry. My phone died and I forgot my charger." She set her bag down. "I should have let you know I'd be gone longer." "It's fine. You don't owe me an explanation. I was just worried." She studied his face and something soft passed through her expression. "You were worried about me?" "Of course I was. I'm sorry," she said again, quieter this time. Emma barreled out of her room. "Sophie, I missed you." Sophia caught her in a hug, squeezing tight. "I missed you too, little dragon." "Where did you go?" "Just visiting someone. Nothing exciting." But Daniel saw the tension in her shoulders, the careful way she avoided his eyes. She was lying, or at least not telling the whole truth. And for the first time since she'd moved in, Daniel felt the distance between what he knew about Sophia and who she actually was. That night, after Emma was asleep, he almost asked her directly, "Who are you, really?" But fear stopped him, fear that the answer would change everything. So he said nothing, and the question hung between them like smoke. The question didn't go away. It lived in the spaces between their conversations, in the careful way Sophia chose her words, in the moments when her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. Over the next few weeks, Daniel noticed more things that didn't add up. Small inconsistencies that individually meant nothing but together formed a pattern he couldn't ignore. Like the way Sophia's hands looked when she cooked. Smooth, uncalloused, the hands of someone who'd never done real manual labor. Or how she sometimes used words that seemed too formal, too polished, catching herself mid-sentence and switching to something more casual. Once, when Emma spilled juice on Sophia's laptop, Sophia had reacted with such calm that it seemed almost practiced. Most people would panic. That laptop was expensive, easily $2,000 or more. But Sophia had just smiled and said, "It's insured, don't worry about it." Who insured a laptop? And there were the phone calls, always taken in her room with the door closed, always brief, always followed by Sophia emerging looking tense and tired. Daniel told himself to stop looking for problems. Sophia had been nothing but kind, generous, and genuine with them. Whatever she was keeping private was her business. But late one Thursday night, everything changed. Daniel woke at 2:15 to the sound of muffled crying. He lay still for a moment, thinking maybe he'd imagined it. Then it came again, soft, broken, coming from Sophia's room. He got up and stood in the hallway, uncertain. Knocking felt invasive. Ignoring it felt cruel. The crying continued, quiet but devastating in its restraint, like someone trying desperately not to be heard. Daniel knocked softly. "Sophia?" The crying stopped abruptly. Silence. "I heard. Are you okay?" More silence. Then her voice, rough and thick. "I'm fine, sorry, go back to sleep." "You don't sound fine." "Daniel, please. I'm not going anywhere." He leaned against the doorframe. "You don't have to talk about it, but I'm not leaving you alone like this." A long pause. Then the door opened. Sophia stood there in an oversized t-shirt, her face blotchy and wet with tears. She looked younger, smaller, and completely broken. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't mean to wake you." "Stop apologizing." Daniel's chest ached at the sight of her. "What happened? Did someone hurt you?" "No, nothing like that." She wrapped her arms around herself. I got a call earlier from someone I used to know. And it brought up a lot of things I've been trying not to think about." "Want to talk about it?" She shook her head. "I can't. I'm sorry. I really can't." "Okay, that's okay." Daniel hesitated, then asked, "Do you want to be alone right now? Or would company help?" Sophia looked at him with such raw gratitude that it nearly broke him. "Company, if you don't mind." They ended up in the kitchen. Daniel made tea, badly, because he never remembered how long to steep it, while Sophia sat at the table, pulling her sleeves over her hands. "I know I'm being dramatic," she said quietly. "It's just a phone call. It shouldn't affect me this much." "Everyone's got something that gets to them," Daniel said, setting a mug in front of her. "Doesn't make it dramatic. Makes it human." She wrapped her hands around the mug, letting the warmth seep in. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Do you ever feel like you're living a life that doesn't quite fit? Like you're wearing someone else's clothes and pretending they belong to you?" Daniel thought about it. "After Sarah died, yeah. For a long time. I was supposed to be a husband and a father. Suddenly, I was just a father. Had to figure out how to be that without the other half of the equation." "How did you do it?" "Badly at first, better over time, still figuring it out, honestly." He sat down across from her. "Is that how you feel? Like you're wearing someone else's life?" "Something like that." Sophia stared into her tea. "I spent a long time being what other people needed me to be. I was good at it. I knew all the right things to say, how to act, what version of myself to present. And then one day I woke up and realized I had no idea who I actually was underneath all of it." "So you left?" "So I left," she confirmed. "Packed 2 bags and disappeared. Ended up here." "Do you regret it?" She looked up at him, her eyes still red but clearer now. "Not even for a second. These past 2 months have been the first time I've felt like myself. Like I could breathe." "Then whoever called tonight, they're part of the old life?" "Yeah. And they want you to go back." Sophia's silence was answer enough. Daniel felt something cold settle in his stomach. "Are you going to?" "No." The word came out fierce, almost angry. "I'm not. I can't. I won't." "Okay." He reached across the table and covered her hand with his. Then you don't have to. Whatever you're running from, you don't have to face it alone. Sophia turned her hand over, lacing her fingers through his. They sat like that for a long moment, the kitchen quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of traffic. Thank you, she whispered, for not asking questions, for just being here. That's what friends do. Is that what we are? She looked at him with something vulnerable and hopeful. Friends? Daniel's heart stuttered. He wanted to say something more, something true, but fear held his tongue. Yeah, he said instead. Friends. Disappointment flickered across her face, so quick he almost missed it. Then she smiled, small and sad, and pulled her hand back. I should try to sleep, she said, standing up. Early day tomorrow. Sophia, good night, Daniel, and thank you, really. She disappeared into her room before he could find the words he should have said. Daniel sat alone in the kitchen and wondered how many times a person could be a coward in one lifetime. The next morning, they didn't talk about it. Sophia acted normal, cheerful even, making breakfast for Emma and chatting about a new project she was working on. But Daniel saw the shadows under her eyes and the way her smile took effort. He wanted to pull her aside, to tell her they needed to talk about last night, about what was clearly weighing on her. But Emma was right there. And then he was late for work, and the moment slipped away. It became a pattern. Days passed, and they fell back into their routine, but something had shifted. The easy comfort between them now carried an undercurrent of things unsaid. Sophia started going out more. She'd take her laptop to coffee shops, saying she needed a change of scenery. She'd go for long walks that stretched into hours. And those phone calls behind closed doors became more frequent. Daniel tried not to notice, tried to respect her privacy. But one Saturday afternoon, everything came crashing down. Daniel had taken Emma to the park, and they'd come home early because it started raining. As they climbed the stairs to the apartment, Daniel heard Sophia's voice through the door, raised, sharp, nothing like her usual gentle tone. I already told you the answer is no. She sounded furious. I don't care what he says. I don't care about the company. I'm not coming back. Emma looked up at Daniel with wide eyes. Is Sophie mad? Sounds like it, Daniel murmured. Why don't you wait here for a second, okay? He unlocked the door as quietly as he could. Sophia had her back to him, phone pressed to her ear, her whole body rigid with tension. You can tell him I said... She turned and saw Daniel. The color drained from her face. I have to go. She ended the call and stood frozen, like a deer caught in headlights. Sorry, Daniel said. Didn't mean to interrupt. It started raining, so we came back. It's fine, I was just... She gestured vaguely at the phone. Dealing with something. Emma ran in from the hallway, shaking rain from her hair. Hi, Sophie. We saw 3 dogs at the park and one was purple. Purple? Sophia's voice cracked slightly as she forced a smile. That's amazing. Well, it was wearing a purple coat, but basically purple. Basically, Sophia agreed. Emma launched into a detailed description of each dog, and Sophia listened with what appeared to be full attention, but Daniel could see her hands trembling. After Emma ran off to change out of her damp clothes, Daniel spoke quietly. You okay? I'm fine. That didn't sound fine. Sophia's jaw tightened. Daniel, I appreciate your concern, but this really isn't your business. The words stung more than they should have. Right, sorry. I'll just... He gestured toward his room. Wait. Sophia closed her eyes, exhaling slowly. I'm sorry. That was unfair. I'm just dealing with some complicated family stuff. Family stuff? Yeah. The kind that makes you yell into phones and look like you might throw up? A bitter laugh escaped her. Exactly that kind. Daniel waited, giving her space to continue if she wanted. When she didn't, he said carefully, Look, I know we haven't known each other that long, and I know you value your privacy. But Sophia, if you're in some kind of trouble, I'm not in trouble. Then what? I'm just trying to live my life. The words burst out of her with surprising force. I'm trying to make my own choices for once, without everyone telling me what I should do, who I should be, what I owe to people I never asked to owe anything to. She stopped abruptly, looking horrified at her own outburst. Daniel spoke gently. Who are they? The people calling you? It doesn't matter. It does if they're upsetting you this much. Sophia turned away, pressing her palms against the counter. My family has certain expectations. I've spent my whole life meeting those expectations, being the person they needed me to be. And I'm done. I'm done performing. I'm done pretending. What kind of expectations? The kind that don't leave room for what I actually want. Her voice went quiet. They want me to come home, to take my place in the family business, to stop hiding and face my responsibilities. And you don't want that. I want this. She gestured around the small apartment. I want to make dinner and help Emma with her homework and figure out my own life on my own terms. I want to be Sophia, not... She cut herself off. Not what? She shook her head. It doesn't matter. The point is I'm not going back. They can't make me. Daniel heard the uncertainty beneath her defiance. But they're trying. They're very good at applying pressure. Sophia's laugh was hollow. Guilt, obligation, family loyalty. They know all the right buttons to push. And you're scared they might actually convince you. She looked at him with eyes that were too bright, terrified. The honesty broke something open in Daniel. He crossed the kitchen and, after a moment's hesitation, pulled her into a hug. Sophia stiffened in surprise, then melted against him, her face pressed into his shoulder. He felt her breathing hitch, felt her fighting not to cry. You're not going anywhere, he said firmly. Not unless you want to. And anyone who tries to make you doesn't deserve you in the first place. She made a small sound, half laugh, half sob. You don't understand. My family, they're not people you just say no to. Then they'll have to learn. Sophia pulled back enough to look at him, mascara smudged beneath her eyes. Why are you being so nice to me? Because you're my friend. And friends don't let friends get bullied by their families. Friend, she repeated softly, something complicated crossing her face. Right. They stood close enough that Daniel could see the gold flecks in her brown eyes, could smell the faint scent of her shampoo. His heart was doing that complicated thing again, and he absolutely knew, that this was the moment to say something real. But Emma's voice rang out from her room. Daddy, can we have mac and cheese for dinner? The moment shattered. Sophia stepped back, wiping at her eyes and laughing shakily. She has excellent timing. The best and worst, Daniel agreed, his voice rougher than intended. That evening, they made mac and cheese together. Emma helped, which meant the kitchen became a disaster zone of spilled pasta and cheese powder footprints. But they laughed through it, and by the time they sat down to eat, Sophia looked lighter than she had all week. After dinner, while Daniel cleaned up, Sophia played guitar for Emma. She sang a soft, pretty song about stars and dreams, and Emma's eyes grew heavy. I love when you sing, Emma murmured sleepily. I love singing for you, Sophia replied, her voice tender. Daniel watched from the kitchen doorway, dish towel in hand, and felt his heart break and heal simultaneously. This was what he'd been missing. Not just help with the rent or someone to share cooking duties, but this warmth, this fullness, this sense of home. He was in love with her. The realization hit him like a physical blow. Somewhere between the first awkward coffee shop meeting and tonight, he'd fallen completely, irrevocably in love with Sophia Whitmore, and he had no idea what to do about it. The following week brought an unexpected warmth to Portland, one of those perfect late spring days where the sky stretched impossibly blue and the air smelled like flowers and fresh-cut grass. On Saturday, Daniel made a spontaneous decision. Want to get out of the city? He asked over breakfast. There's this lake I used to take Sarah to. Emma's never been. Sophia looked up from her coffee, surprised. Really? Yeah, thought it might be nice. Fresh air, sunshine, all that. Can we? Emma bounced in her chair. Please, Sophie, please say yes. Sophia laughed. How can I say no to that face? An hour later, they were in Daniel's truck heading east out of Portland. Emma sat between them, maintaining a constant stream of commentary about everything they passed. Sophia caught Daniel's eye over Emma's head and smiled, genuine and relaxed in a way he hadn't seen in days. The lake was exactly as Daniel remembered. Tucked between pine-covered hills, the water gleamed like glass in the sunlight. A few families dotted the shore, but it was quiet, peaceful. Emma ran straight for the water's edge, squealing about rocks and fish, and, "Is that a turtle?" "Careful," Daniel called after her. "Not too deep." "I'll watch her," Sophia offered, kicking off her shoes. Daniel watched as Sophia waded into the shallow water with Emma, both of them laughing as the cold shocked their feet. Sophia had traded her usual careful composure for something looser, freer. She'd pulled her hair up, and the sun caught the copper tones hidden in the dark brown. She looked happy, truly, unreservedly happy. Later, they spread a blanket under a massive pine tree. Emma had collected approximately 700 rocks and was organizing them by prettiness. Daniel unpacked the sandwiches he'd thrown together while Sophia lay back on the blanket, face turned toward the sun. "This was a good idea," she said quietly. "Yeah?" "Yeah." She opened her eyes and looked at him. "Thank you for sharing this place." "It's special," Daniel admitted. "Sarah and I used to come here before Emma was born. We'd spend whole afternoons just sitting here making plans for the future." Sophia's expression softened. "What kind of plans?" "The usual. Where we'd live when we could afford something bigger, how many kids we wanted, what we'd do when we retired." He smiled sadly. "Most of them didn't happen." "Do you still miss her? Is that a stupid question?" "Not stupid, and yeah, I do. Different now than it used to be, less sharp, more like remembering someone you loved a long time ago." "That's a nice way to put it." Emma ran over with her finest rock specimen, a piece of quartz that caught the light. "Look, it's magic." "It's beautiful," Sophia agreed, examining it seriously. "Definitely magic." You should keep it," Emma decided, pressing it into Sophia's hand. "For good luck." Sophia's eyes went bright. "Thank you, sweet girl. I'll treasure it." Emma beamed and ran back to her collection. "She loves you, you know," Daniel said quietly. Sophia clutched the rock like it was precious. "I love her too. She's extraordinary." "She is, and she doesn't let just anyone in. But with you, it was instant, like she knew she could trust you." "Kids have good instincts." "They do." Daniel paused, then took a risk. "What about you? Do your instincts say you can trust me?" Sophia turned her head to look at him fully. "Yes, without question. You're one of the most genuinely good people I've ever met." "Then why won't you tell me the truth about who you are?" The question hung in the air between them. Sophia sat up slowly, hugging her knees. "It's not that I don't trust you," she said finally. "It's that I don't want to ruin this. What we have here." She gestured at the lake, at Emma, at the space between them. "It's real. It's honest. The moment I tell you where I come from, everything changes." "How?" "Because you'll look at me differently. You'll see someone else. And I can't lose this, Daniel. I can't lose the way you look at me now, like I'm just Sophia. Not a name or a fortune or a headline." Daniel's heart stopped. "Fortune?" Sophia closed her eyes. "Forget I said that." "Sophia, please." She looked at him desperately. "Can we just have today? Just this one perfect day before everything gets complicated?" He should have pushed, should have demanded answers, but the fear in her eyes stopped him. "Okay," he said. "Today. Just today." Relief flooded her face. "Thank you." They spent the rest of the afternoon in careful normalcy. Emma built elaborate rock kingdoms. Sophia sketched in a notebook she'd brought. Daniel skipped stones across the water, teaching Emma the wrist flick that made them bounce. As the sun started to sink toward the hills, they packed up to leave. Emma had fallen asleep on the drive back, her head on Sophia's shoulder, the magic rock clutched in one hand. Daniel glanced over and found Sophia watching him. "What?" he asked softly. "Nothing. Just thank you. For today. For everything. You keep thanking me. You don't have to." "I know, but I want to." She reached over Emma and found his hand on the gear shift, squeezing gently. "You've given me something I didn't know I needed." "What's that?" "A place to belong." Daniel's throat went tight. He squeezed her hand back, unable to find words adequate enough. They drove home in comfortable silence, the sky turning pink and gold, Emma breathing softly between them. And for one perfect moment, Daniel let himself pretend this was his real life. That Sophia was his, that Emma had two parents, that they were just a normal family heading home after a normal day. The fantasy lasted exactly 3 more days. On Tuesday evening, Daniel came home to find Sophia pacing the living room, phone pressed to her ear, her voice tight with barely controlled anger. I don't care what the board says. I'm not coming back for some dog and pony show. No, you listen to me. She saw Daniel and quickly turned away. I have to go. Tell him my answer is still no. She ended the call and stood with her back to Daniel, shoulders rigid. Sophia, he said carefully. What's going on? Nothing, just family drama. It's getting worse, isn't it? The pressure. She didn't answer. Talk to me, please. Sophia turned around and he saw exhaustion written across every line of her face. They found me. I don't know how, but they know where I am, and they're planning to send someone. Send someone? What does that mean? It means my father doesn't take no for an answer. It means he'll do whatever it takes to bring me back. He can't force you. You're an adult. You don't understand. Sophia's laugh was bitter. My father doesn't operate like normal people. He has resources, influence, leverage. If he wants something, he gets it. Not this time. Daniel, no. He crossed to her, taking her shoulders gently. Listen to me. I don't care who your father is or what kind of power he thinks he has. You're a person, not property. And if you want to stay here, then you stay. Sophia looked up at him with eyes full of fear and hope. What if staying puts you and Emma in the middle of something ugly? Then we deal with it, together. You're being naive. You don't know what you're saying. Maybe, but I know what I'm saying when I tell you that you're not facing this alone. She studied his face for a long moment. Why? Why would you do that for me? Because I love you, Daniel thought. Because somewhere in the last 3 months, you became essential. Because the thought of you leaving makes it hard to breathe. But what he said was, because you're family now, and we protect family. Sophia's eyes filled with tears. Daniel! The knock on the door cut her off. 3 sharp raps. Firm. Authoritative. They both froze. Expecting someone? Sophia whispered. No. Another knock. Harder this time. Sophia's face went white. He wouldn't. Not this fast. Not... Miss Whitmore? A man's voice came through the door. Calm, professional, utterly confident. I know you're in there. Your father would like a word. Sophia grabbed Daniel's arm, her fingers digging in with desperate strength. Don't open it. Please don't open it. But even as she spoke, the door opened. The man standing in the hallway was tall, impeccably dressed in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than Daniel made in a month. He looked to be in his 50s, with silver hair and the kind of posture that came from years of authority. Miss Whitmore, he said, his tone unchanged. I apologize for the intrusion. My name is Richard Chen. I work for your father. Sophia stepped forward, positioning herself between the man and Daniel. How did you find me? Your father has many resources. Chen's eyes flicked to Daniel, assessing and dismissing him in the same glance. I'm here to escort you home. I'm not going. Your father anticipated you might say that. He asked me to remind you of your obligations to the family, to the company, and to inform you that your continued absence is having consequences. What consequences? Chen pulled out a tablet, tapping it twice before turning it to face her. The board is threatening a vote of no confidence. Stock prices have dropped 4% since news of your sabbatical became public. Your brother is struggling to manage investor relations without your support. Sophia's face remained impassive, but Daniel saw her hands shake. That's not my problem anymore. Miss Whitmore, please be reasonable. You have responsibilities. I have a life. The words exploded out of her. I have friends. I have a home. I have something that actually matters. You can tell my father that no amount of guilt or manipulation will change my mind. I'm done. Chen sighed like a disappointed teacher. I was hoping we could resolve this amicably. Your father will be disappointed. My father will survive. Indeed. However, he wanted me to inform you that if you don't return voluntarily, he'll be forced to take more direct action. Chen's gaze shifted to Daniel. It would be unfortunate if your friends became entangled in family business. Daniel stepped forward. Is that a threat? Merely an observation, Mr. Brooks. The use of his name sent ice through Daniel's veins. They'd researched him, knew who he was, probably knew about Emma. Sophia saw his expression change. "Don't," she said to Chen, her voice dangerous. "Don't you dare involve them. Then come home, tonight, and this all goes away." "No." Chen studied her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Very well. I'll inform your father of your decision, but Miss Whitmore," his tone shifted, becoming almost gentle. "This won't end here. You know your father. He always gets what he wants, always." He turned and walked away, his footsteps echoing in the stairwell. Daniel and Sophia stood frozen in the doorway until they heard the building's main door close. Then Sophia collapsed against the doorframe, all the strength leaving her body at once. "Sophia!" Daniel caught her, pulling her inside and closing the door. She was shaking, actually shaking. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I never meant for this to touch you." "Hey, it's okay." "It's not okay." She pulled away from him, wrapping her arms around herself. "You don't understand. That man, what he said about direct action, my father doesn't make empty threats. He will find a way to hurt you if it means getting what he wants." "Let him try." "Daniel, you're not listening. My father is Jonathan Whitmore." The name hit Daniel like cold water. Jonathan Whitmore, CEO of Whitmore Global, one of the richest men in the country. His face was on business magazines. His companies owned half the commercial real estate in the Pacific Northwest. And Sophia was his daughter. Daniel sat down heavily on the couch. Jonathan Whitmore. Yes, the Jonathan Whitmore. Yes. His mind raced, trying to reconcile the woman making mac and cheese with Emma, with the daughter of a billionaire empire. You're Sophia Whitmore, as in Whitmore Global Sophia Whitmore. As in the runaway heiress who abandoned her family and company, Sophia said bitterly. As in the disappointment who chose graphic design over board meetings. Daniel looked at her, really looked at her, and realized that despite the revelation, nothing fundamental had changed. She was still the woman who'd cried in his kitchen at 2 a.m, still the woman who'd lent him money without hesitation, still the woman Emma loved. "Okay," he said finally. Sophia blinked. "Okay? Okay. Your father is Jonathan Whitmore. You're rich. You're running from all that. Okay. That's it? Just okay? What do you want me to say, Sophia? That I'm angry you didn't tell me? Fine, I'm a little angry, but mostly I'm just trying to figure out what happens next." She stared at him like he was speaking another language. You're not going to tell me to leave? To go back to my family before they make trouble for you? Is that what you want? To go back? No, but then stay. We'll figure it out. You don't understand what you're saying. My father has lawyers, investigators, connections everywhere. If he wants to make your life difficult, he can destroy you. Daniel stood and crossed to her, taking her face in his hands. Sophia, look at me. She did, her eyes wide and frightened. I don't care, he said clearly. I don't care about your father or his money or his power. I care about you. And if you want to stay, then you stay. End of story. A tear slipped down her cheek. Why would you risk that for me? Because I love you, he thought again. Because you've become part of my life, and I can't imagine it without you. But he still couldn't say it. So instead, he pulled her into his arms and held her while she cried. And outside, in a black SUV parked across the street, Richard Chen made a phone call. Sir, he said when the line connected. She refused. Should I proceed to phase 2? Jonathan Whitmore's voice came through cold and decisive. Do it. I want my daughter home by the end of the week. Chen smiled. Understood, sir. Consider it done. The next morning started like any other, which should have been Daniel's first warning that something was wrong. He woke at 6, made coffee, got Emma ready for school. Sophia emerged from her room looking like she hadn't slept at all, dark circles under her eyes, but she still managed to smile at Emma and ask about her spelling test. I studied all the words, Emma announced proudly. Sophie helped me yesterday. I know how to spell because now, Because. Perfect, Sophia said, but her voice was strained. Daniel caught her eye over Emma's head. You okay? Fine, she lied. After he dropped Emma at school, Daniel headed to Morrison's garage for his early shift. The morning was slow, an oil change, a brake inspection, nothing challenging. He was under a Honda Civic when his phone rang. "Mr. Brooks?" The voice was unfamiliar. Female, professional, vaguely apologetic. "This is Jennifer Carlisle from Pacific Trust Bank. I'm calling about your account." Daniel rolled out from under the car, wiping grease from his hands. "What about it?" "I'm afraid there's been a hold placed on your account. All transactions have been frozen pending an investigation." The wrench slipped from his fingers. "What investigation?" "I'm not at liberty to discuss the details, but there's been a report of suspicious activity. Until the matter is resolved, you won't have access to your funds. I apologize for the inconvenience." "Wait, how long will this take?" "These things typically resolve within 7 to 10 business days." 7 to 10. I have bills due. I have my daughter's school payments. I understand your frustration, Mr. Brooks, but my hands are tied. You'll receive notification once the hold is lifted. The line went dead. Daniel stood in the middle of the garage, phone in hand, his heart pounding. Suspicious activity. His account had maybe $1,500 in it on a good month. What the hell kind of suspicious activity could there be? Then he remembered Richard Chen's cold smile. "Your father will be forced to take more direct action." His phone rang again. This time it was Emma's after-school program. "Mr. Brooks, I'm calling about your outstanding balance. We've been patient, but we're now 60 days past due. Unless payment is received by end of day Friday, we'll have to suspend Emma's enrollment." "I understand. There's been a banking issue, but I'll sort it out. Friday, Mr. Brooks." "I'm sorry, but that's our policy." Another hang-up, another problem. Daniel called the bank back, demanded to speak to a manager, got transferred 4 times before reaching someone who could tell him exactly nothing new. The investigation was ongoing. His account would remain frozen. No exceptions. He was still on hold when Morrison walked over, wiping his hands on a red shop rag. "Brooks, got a minute?" Something in his boss's tone made Daniel's stomach drop. "Yeah, sure." They walked to Morrison's office, a cramped room that smelled like old coffee and motor oil. Morrison sat behind his desk and sighed heavily. "Look, kid, I don't know how to say this, so I'm just going to say it. I got a call this morning from some lawyer, said there's been complaints about the work we've been doing. Safety violations, improper repairs, the whole 9 yards." "What? That's insane. We've never—" I know. But this lawyer, he's representing 3 different customers. Says they're filing formal complaints with the state licensing board. Says if I don't resolve it, they're going after the shop's certification. Daniel felt ice in his veins. "Which customers?" Morrison pulled out a list. Daniel didn't recognize a single name. "I've never worked on any of these cars," Daniel said slowly. "Yeah, I'm starting to figure that out." Morrison met his eyes. "Someone's coming after you, kid, and they're using my shop to do it." "Morrison, I swear." "I believe you. But I got a business to protect. I can't have the state board crawling up my ass because someone's got a vendetta." He paused, clearly hating what he had to say next. "I'm going to need you to take some time off, just until this blows over." "You're suspending me?" "Temporarily, with pay," Morrison added quickly. "I'm not throwing you under the bus, but I need this heat off my shop." Daniel wanted to argue, to fight, to demand Morrison stand up to whoever was doing this, but he saw the fear in his boss's eyes. Morrison was 3 years from retirement. He couldn't afford to lose his business. "How long?" Daniel asked quietly. "Week, maybe 2. Soon as I can prove these complaints are bogus, you're back." Daniel nodded numbly and walked out of the office. His coworker Jake looked up from the engine he was working on. "You all right, man? You look like you've seen a ghost." "Yeah," Daniel said. "Something like that." He drove home in a daze, his mind racing. Bank account frozen. Job suspended. Emma's after-school program threatening to kick her out, all in the span of 2 hours. Jonathan Whitmore wasn't making threats. He was declaring war. Sophia was sitting on the apartment steps when he pulled up, her laptop closed beside her. She stood as he approached, and one look at his face told her everything. "It started, hasn't it?" she said. "My bank account is frozen. My job suspended me. Emma's program is demanding immediate payment or they'll drop her." Daniel's voice was flat, emotionless. All this morning, all within 2 hours. Sophia's face crumpled. Oh no, Daniel, I'm so sorry. Is this him, your father? I don't know, maybe, probably. She pressed her hands to her face. This is exactly what he does. He finds pressure points and pushes until people break. Well, it's working. I'll fix it. I'll call him. I'll tell him to stop. And say what? That you'll come home? Sophia didn't answer. Daniel felt something cold and hard settle in his chest. That's what he wants, isn't it? He'll keep destroying my life until you give in. I won't. I'll find another way. There is no other way. Daniel's control finally snapped. He's got lawyers and money, and apparently the power to freeze bank accounts and invent customer complaints out of thin air. What the hell are we supposed to do against that? I don't know. Sophia's voice broke. I don't know, but I'm not leaving you to deal with this alone. Maybe you should. The words hung between them like poison. Sophia stepped back as if he'd slapped her. What? Maybe you should go back before he destroys everything I have. You don't mean that. Don't I? Daniel laughed bitterly. I've got maybe $300 in cash to my name, no access to my account, no job. And in 3 days, my daughter won't have anywhere to go after school. How am I supposed to take care of her like this? I'll help. I have money. I don't want your money, Sophia. I want my life back. The life I had before you showed up with your secrets and your billionaire father and your... He stopped, breathing hard. Tears streamed down Sophia's face. Before I ruined everything. That's what you were going to say. I didn't. You did. And you're right. I did ruin everything. I was selfish. I should have stayed away from you and Emma. I should have known my father would do this. She turned and ran into the building before Daniel could stop her. He stood alone on the sidewalk, the afternoon sun suddenly too bright, too hot. What had he done? What had he just said to her? But even as guilt crashed over him, another voice whispered in his mind. She brought this on you. All of it. And now Emma would pay the price. Daniel went inside and found Sophia's door closed. He raised his hand to knock, then stopped. What could he say? How could he take back words that had been true in the moment he'd spoken them? He spent the rest of the afternoon making phone calls. The bank was immovable. The after-school program sympathetic but firm. Morrison apologetic but powerless. Every door was closed, every option blocked. By the time Daniel picked up Emma from school, he'd run out of solutions. Why do you look sad, Daddy? Emma asked as they drove home. Just tired, baby. Is it because of work? Did the trucks make you tired? Something like that. Emma was quiet for a moment. Is Sophie okay? She seemed sad this morning, too. Daniel's hands tightened on the steering wheel. I think she's dealing with some hard stuff right now. Can we help her? Like she helps us? The simple question broke something in Daniel. I don't know if we can, Em. When they got home, Sophia's door was still closed. Daniel made dinner, boxed mac and cheese again, because it was cheap and Emma liked it. They ate in silence, broken only by Emma's chatter about her spelling test. I got them all right, she announced proudly. Mrs. Patterson gave me a gold star. Can I show Sophie? Maybe later, baby. I think she needs some quiet time. Oh, Emma's face fell. Did we make her mad? No, sweetheart. Grown-up stuff. Nothing to do with you. After Emma went to bed, Daniel sat in the living room in the dark, staring at nothing. Around 9 o'clock, he heard Sophia's door open. She emerged with her 2 bags, the same one she'd arrived with 3 months ago. Daniel stood. What are you doing? What I should have done the moment Chen showed up. Her voice was steady, but her eyes were red and swollen. I'm leaving. Sophia, I called my father, told him I'd come home if he stopped. If he unfroze your accounts and made the complaints disappear and left you alone. You can't do that. I already did. His people will start making calls in the morning. Everything will be back to normal by Monday. At what cost? Daniel crossed to her. You said you'd never go back. You said that life was killing you. And staying is killing you. She met his eyes. I heard what you said earlier. You were right. I ruined your life by being here. I didn't mean... Yes, you did. And you should have. I was selfish, Daniel. I wanted this life so badly that I didn't think about what it would cost you to give it to me. She set her bags down and pulled an envelope from her pocket. "This is 3 months' rent. I know I already paid, but I want you to have extra. For Emma. For whatever you need." "I don't want your money." "I know, but take it anyway. Please." Daniel stared at the envelope, then at her face, memorizing it, knowing this might be the last time he saw her like this. Not Sophia Whitmore, heiress and billionaire's daughter, just Sophia. His Sophia. "Don't go," he said quietly. "I have to." "Stay. We'll figure something else out." "There is nothing else. You know that." She picked up her bags. "Tell Emma I'm sorry I didn't say goodbye. Tell her I'll miss her. Tell her yourself. She'll be devastated." "If I see her, I won't be able to leave." Sophia's voice cracked. "And I have to leave, Daniel. For you, for Emma, for everyone." She moved toward the door, and Daniel felt panic rise in his throat. "Sophia, wait." She turned back, and he saw hope flicker in her eyes. Hope that he'd give her a reason to stay. A real reason. This was the moment. The moment to say what he'd been too afraid to say for weeks. That he loved her, that she'd become essential. That losing her would break something in him that might never heal. But fear paralyzed him. Fear of being vulnerable. Fear of loving someone and losing them again. Fear that if he said the words out loud, they'd have power to destroy him. So he said nothing. The hope died in Sophia's eyes. She nodded slowly, like she'd expected this all along. "Goodbye, Daniel," she whispered. "Thank you for giving me the best 3 months of my life." Then she walked out the door. Daniel stood frozen, listening to her footsteps fade down the stairs. The building's main door opened and closed. A car engine started, and she was gone. He sank onto the couch, the envelope still in his hand. Inside was a check for $1,800 and a note in Sophia's handwriting. "Thank you for showing me what home feels like. I'm sorry I couldn't stay. Take care of Emma. Take care of yourself. And maybe, someday, forgive me for leaving." Daniel read it 3 times before the words blurred with tears. The next morning, Emma woke up asking for Sophie. "She had to go away, baby," Daniel said, his voice rough from crying. "Family stuff. She's not coming back." Emma's face crumpled. "But she didn't say goodbye." "I know. I'm sorry." "Did we do something wrong?" "No, sweetheart. You didn't do anything wrong. Sometimes grown-ups have to make hard choices." "I don't like those choices," Emma said, and started crying. Daniel held his daughter while she sobbed, feeling like the worst father in the world. He'd brought Sophia into their lives. Let Emma get attached, and then let her leave without a fight. The weekend crawled by. Emma cried herself to sleep both nights. Daniel cleaned Sophia's room, stripping the bed and packing away the few things she'd left behind. A sketch she'd been working on, the 3 of them at the lake. A book she'd been reading. The magic rock Emma had given her, placed carefully on the windowsill. She'd left the rock. The one thing Emma had given her, and she'd left it behind. Daniel held it in his palm and felt something crack in his chest. On Monday morning, his phone rang. The bank. "Mr. Brooks? I'm pleased to inform you that the investigation has concluded. The hold on your account has been lifted. We apologize for any inconvenience." An hour later, Morrison called. "Brooks, get your ass back to work. Those complaints disappeared overnight. Customers admitted they were paid to lie. You're cleared." Emma's after-school program called to say an anonymous donation had covered his past due balance and the next 6 months. By noon, every problem that had appeared Thursday morning had vanished. Jonathan Whitmore had kept his word. Daniel should have felt relief, should have celebrated having his life back. Instead, he felt hollow. That evening, Emma sat at the kitchen table drawing. She'd been quiet all day, none of her usual chatter. "What are you drawing?" Daniel asked. She turned the paper around. It was a picture of 3 stick figures, her, Daniel, and Sophia. Above them, in crayon letters, "Our family." "I miss her, Daddy," Emma whispered. "I know, baby. Me too." "Can we call her? Can we ask her to come back?" Daniel's throat tightened. "I don't think we can." "Why not?" "Because sometimes people have to be where they belong, and Sophie belongs with her family." "But we're her family," Emma insisted. "She said so. She said we were her favorite people in the whole world." When did she say that? Lots of times. When we were cooking or drawing or at the lake, she said being with us made her happy. Daniel pulled Emma into his lap. Then we made her happy while we could. That's something. But it didn't feel like something. It felt like everything, slipping through his fingers. That night, after Emma finally fell asleep, Daniel sat in Sophia's empty room. The space still smelled faintly like her. Something floral and clean. He ran his hand along the windowsill where she'd left the rock. Why had she left it? Was it too painful to keep? Or had she left it as a reminder that she'd been here, that their time together had been real? His phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Tell Emma I kept the rock. I found it in my bag. I keep it with me everywhere. Tell her it is magic. S. Daniel stared at the message, his vision blurring. She'd texted him. She was thinking about them. He typed and deleted a dozen responses before settling on, "She'll be happy to know that." The response came immediately. "How is she?" "Missing you." "We both are." A long pause. Then, "I'm sorry for everything. Don't be. You gave us something beautiful." Another pause. Daniel could almost see her on the other end, trying to find the right words. "I have to go. Please take care of each other." And then nothing. The conversation ended as abruptly as it had begun. Daniel sat holding his phone, reading the messages over and over until they were burned into his memory. The weeks that followed were strange. Life returned to normal on the surface, work, school, routines. But the apartment felt wrong, too quiet, too empty. Emma stopped asking when Sophia was coming back, but she kept the dragon drawing taped above her bed. Sometimes Daniel would catch her staring at it, her expression too old for a 6-year-old. Daniel threw himself into work, taking extra shifts, anything to avoid coming home to the empty apartment. Morrison noticed, but didn't comment, just kept giving him overtime. One evening about 3 weeks after Sophia left, Daniel came home to find an envelope tucked under his door. Inside was a letter on expensive stationery. "Daniel, I hope this letter finds you and Emma well. I've been thinking about you constantly, wondering how you're managing, hoping you're both okay. I want to explain what happened after I left, though I'm not sure it will help. My father met me at the airport. He didn't gloat or lecture. He just looked disappointed, which somehow felt worse. I'm back in the family business now. Back to board meetings and charity galas and wearing the right dresses and saying the right things. It's exactly as suffocating as I remembered. But there's something different this time. Before, I didn't know there was another way to live. Now I do. I've tasted freedom. I know what it feels like to be wanted for who I am, not what I represent. That's the cruel part, isn't it? You can't unknow something once you know it. I think about our mornings in the kitchen, about Emma's stories and your quiet strength, about feeling like I belonged somewhere. And I realized that for 3 months, I had everything I wanted. I just didn't recognize it until it was gone. I don't know why I'm writing this. Maybe I need you to know that leaving wasn't easy. That I think about you both every single day. That if I could go back and do things differently, I would have told you the truth from the beginning. Maybe then you would have known how much you meant to me. Take care of yourself, Daniel. Take care of Emma. And know that somewhere in the world, someone is thinking of you and wishing things could be different. Always, Sophia Danielle read the letter until the words were seared into his brain. Then he folded it carefully and put it in his nightstand drawer. He wanted to write back. Wanted to tell her that he thought about her too, that Emma asked about her, that the apartment still felt like hers. But what would be the point? She was in her world. He was in his. And never the two should meet. 2 more weeks passed. Daniel fell into a rhythm. Work, Emma, sleep, repeat. It was functional. It was manageable. It was miserable. Then one rainy Tuesday evening, Daniel came home to find Emma sitting at the kitchen table with a very serious expression. "Daddy, we need to talk," she announced. Despite everything, Daniel smiled. "Okay. What about?" "About Sophie. I think we made a mistake." "What kind of mistake, baby?" "We let her leave. We should have asked her to stay." "It's not that simple." "Yes, it is." Emma's voice rose. "She was sad and we let her be sad. We should have told her we loved her and wanted her to stay forever." "Emma, I heard you, Daddy, that day before she left. You said mean things to her. You made her cry." Guilt crashed over Daniel. You heard that? I was in my room. You were being loud. Emma's eyes filled with tears. Why did you make her go away? I didn't make her go. She had to go back to her family. We are her family. Emma was crying now. She said so. She said we were the best family she ever had, and we just let her leave. Daniel pulled Emma into his arms as she sobbed against his chest. Her pain was palpable, overwhelming, and completely justified. You're right, he said quietly. You're absolutely right. I should have asked her to stay. I should have fought for her. So why didn't you? Why didn't he? Fear? Pride? The belief that he didn't deserve someone like Sophia? All of the above, probably. Because I was scared, he admitted. Scared that if I asked her to stay and she left anyway, it would hurt even more. But it hurts now, Emma said, her voice muffled against his shirt. Yeah, baby, it does. Emma pulled back, wiping her eyes. Can we fix it? Can we tell her we want her back? I don't know if we can. We have to try, Daddy. We have to at least try. Daniel looked at his daughter, 6 years old and already wiser than him. When had she grown up so much? You really love her, don't you? He asked. Of course I love her, don't you? The question hit him like a punch to the gut. Did he love Sophia? Had he been in love with her this whole time and just too terrified to admit it? Yes. The answer was yes. He'd been in love with her probably since that night she'd cried in her room and he'd made her terrible tea, maybe even before that, and he'd let her walk away without saying it. Yeah, he told Emma, I do love her. Then we have to get her back. Emma's determination was fierce. We have to make a plan. A plan, Daniel repeated, something like hope stirring in his chest. A really good plan, like in the movies where the person realizes they made a mistake and they go fix it. Daniel pulled out his phone and looked at the letter Sophia had sent. At the bottom, barely visible, was an embossed return address. Whitmore Global Headquarters in Seattle. Seattle was 3 hours away. He could drive there. He could walk into that building and demand to see her. And say what? That he was sorry? That he wanted her back? That he'd been a coward, but he was ready to be brave now? Would it even matter? She was back in her world, the world of board meetings and charity galas and billion-dollar decisions. What could he possibly offer her that would compete with that? But then he remembered what she'd written. I had everything I wanted. I just didn't recognize it until it was gone. Maybe she didn't want the mansions and the money. Maybe she just wanted what he could give her, a small apartment, homemade dinners, and a family that loved her for who she was. Maybe that was enough. Okay, Daniel said to Emma, let's make a plan. Emma's face lit up. Really? Really, but I need your help. How do we get Sophie back? Emma thought hard, her face scrunched in concentration. First, we have to tell her we love her, and that we're sorry, and that we want her to come home. That's a good start. And we have to mean it, like really, really mean it, so she knows we're serious. Agreed. And maybe we should bring her flowers. People like flowers. Daniel smiled, the first real smile in weeks. Flowers are a good idea. They spent the next hour planning. Emma drew pictures to give to Sophia. Daniel drafted and redrafted what he wanted to say. By the time Emma went to bed, they had something resembling a plan. It was probably a terrible plan. It would probably fail spectacularly, but at least they were trying. That night, Daniel lay awake thinking about Seattle, about Sophia, about taking the biggest risk of his life. And for the first time since she'd left, he felt something other than emptiness. He felt hope. But hope, Daniel discovered over the next few days, was a complicated thing. It made you brave and terrified in equal measure. He spent Wednesday researching Whitmore Global, trying to understand the world Sophia had returned to. The company's headquarters occupied an entire city block in downtown Seattle, all glass and steel and corporate power. Their portfolio included real estate development, tech investments, and sustainable energy projects across 3 continents. Jonathan Whitmore's official biography read like a masterclass in ruthless success. Built his first company at 23. Took it public at 30. Acquired 17 competitors over the next 2 decades. Net worth estimated at somewhere north of $4 billion. And Sophia was his only daughter, his heir apparent. Daniel closed his laptop feeling sick. What was he thinking? That he could just walk into that world and ask Sophia to give it all up for a mechanic and his 6-year-old daughter? But Emma's words echoed in his mind. We have to at least try. On Thursday evening, Daniel sat Emma down for a serious conversation. If we do this, he said carefully, if we go to Seattle and try to bring Sophie back, we need to be prepared that she might say no. Emma's face was solemn. Why would she say no? She loves us. She does love us. But sometimes love isn't enough. Sometimes people have obligations, responsibilities, things they can't walk away from. Like what? How did you explain corporate dynasties to a 6-year-old? Like family business. Sophie's father needs her help running his company. A lot of people depend on her. But she was happy with us, Emma insisted. She told me. She said living here made her feel free. I know, baby, but no buts, Daddy. If she was happy here and sad there, then she should be here. It's simple. Daniel wished it were that simple. Wished the world worked according to 6-year-old logic, where happiness trumped everything else. Okay, he said. We'll go. This Saturday. We'll drive to Seattle and we'll tell Sophie how we feel. But Emma, you have to promise me something. What? If she says she needs to stay, if she chooses her other life, you have to accept that. No crying, no begging. We'll thank her for the time she gave us and we'll leave with dignity. Deal? Emma considered this seriously. Can I cry in the car on the way home? Daniel's throat tightened. Yeah, baby, we can both cry in the car on the way home. Okay? Deal. They shook on it, and Daniel felt the weight of what they were about to do settle over him like a physical thing. Friday at work, Morrison noticed Daniel's distraction. You all right, Brooks? You've been in another world all day. Daniel was supposed to be rotating tires. Instead, he'd been staring at the same lug nut for 5 minutes. Just thinking. About that girl who lived with you? Daniel looked up sharply. How did you? Come on, kid. I'm old, not blind. You've been walking around like someone died ever since she left. Morrison leaned against the car. You gonna do something about it, or just mope forever? I'm going to Seattle tomorrow, to try to get her back. Morrison nodded approvingly. Good. Life's too short to let the good ones slip away, trust me. I know. What if she says no? Then at least you tried. At least you won't spend the rest of your life wondering what if. Morrison clapped him on the shoulder. Take Monday off if you need it. Hell, take the week. Some things are more important than tire rotations. Daniel felt gratitude swell in his chest. Thanks, boss. Don't thank me yet. Thank me when you bring her back and she makes those cookies again. Those were damn good cookies. That evening, Daniel and Emma prepared. Emma made a card with markers and glitter that read, We miss you, Sophie, with drawings of dragons and hearts, and the three of them holding hands. Daniel picked up flowers from the grocery store. Nothing fancy, just a simple bouquet of daisies and sunflowers. Sophia had mentioned once that she liked sunflowers because they always faced the light. What are you going to say? Emma asked as Daniel tucked her into bed. I'm going to tell her the truth, that I was wrong to let her leave, that we want her to come home, He stopped. That you what? That I love her. Emma smiled. Good. You should definitely say that part. You think so? Daddy, everybody should say the love part. That's the most important part. Daniel kissed her forehead. When did you get so smart? I've always been smart. You just don't always notice. He laughed despite the nervousness churning in his stomach. Get some sleep, wise one. We've got a big day tomorrow. Daniel barely slept that night. He lay in bed running through scenarios, trying to prepare for every possible outcome. What if Sophia refused to see him? What if security escorted him out? What if she'd moved on, decided that her old life was better after all? Or worse, what if she wanted to come back but couldn't? What if her father had some kind of hold over her that she couldn't break? By the time his alarm went off at 6, Daniel had given himself a headache and resolved exactly nothing. They left Portland at 7:30, the early morning fog still clinging to the highway. Emma sat in the passenger seat clutching her card, unusually quiet. You nervous? Daniel asked. A little. What if she forgot about us? She didn't forget about us, baby. Nobody could forget you. But what if she doesn't want to come back? Daniel reached over and squeezed her hand. Then we'll know we tried. and we'll always have the memories of the time we did have together. Those don't go away. They drove in silence for a while, the landscape shifting from city to forest to the industrial sprawl of Tacoma. As they got closer to Seattle, Daniel's nerves intensified. "Can we practice?" Emma asked suddenly. "Practice what?" "What we're going to say. I want to make sure I get it right." So they practiced. Emma recited her speech, a surprisingly articulate explanation of how much she missed Sophia and how the apartment felt wrong without her. Daniel stumbled through his own words, trying to find the right way to say everything his heart was screaming. By the time they reached Seattle, it was almost 11. The Whitmore Global building loomed ahead, all gleaming glass reflecting the overcast sky. It looked even more intimidating in person. Daniel found parking 3 blocks away. As they walked toward the building, Emma slipped her hand into his. "It's really big," she whispered. "Yeah, it is." "Sophie works in there?" "Apparently. It doesn't look like somewhere Sophie would work. It looks scary." Daniel had to agree. The building radiated corporate power and cold efficiency, the exact opposite of the warm, gentle woman who'd made them pancakes and read bedtime stories. The lobby was vast and modern, all marble floors and contemporary art. A security desk stood between them and the elevators, staffed by 2 guards who looked like they took their jobs very seriously. Daniel approached with Emma beside him, clutching the flowers in one hand. "Can I help you?" The guard's tone was professionally polite but clearly skeptical of the mechanic in jeans and the 6-year-old carrying a glitter card. "I'm here to see Sophia Whitmore." "Do you have an appointment?" "No, but..." "I'm sorry, sir. Miss Whitmore doesn't see anyone without an appointment. You can contact her assistant to schedule..." "Please," Daniel interrupted. "I just need 5 minutes. It's important." The guard's expression didn't change. "I understand, sir, but building policy is very clear. No appointment, no access." "Can you at least call her? Tell her Daniel Brooks is here?" "Sir, please," Emma spoke up, her voice small but determined. "We came all the way from Portland. We just want to see Sophie. She used to live with us and we miss her, and we made her a card." The guard's expression softened slightly at Emma's earnest face, but he still shook his head. "I'm sorry, sweetheart. I don't make the rules." Daniel felt desperation rising. They'd come all this way. They couldn't just turn around and leave. "What if I called her myself? Could I at least do that?" "You're welcome to use your phone anywhere you'd like, sir. Just not in this lobby." Daniel pulled out his phone with shaking hands and dialed the number Sophia had texted from. It rang 4 times before going to voicemail. "Sophia, it's Daniel. I'm downstairs in your building. I know this is crazy, but I need to see you, please. Just 5 minutes. He looked at Emma, at her hopeful face. "I have something important to tell you." He hung up and waited. The seconds stretched into minutes. The security guard watched them with patient sympathy, probably used to people trying to get upstairs to people who didn't want to see them. 5 minutes passed, then 10. Daniel's phone stayed silent. "Daddy?" Emma's voice was very small. "Is she coming?" "I don't know, baby." Maybe she didn't get the message yet. Maybe. But 15 minutes turned into 20, and Daniel had to face reality. Sophia either hadn't gotten the message or had chosen not to respond. They'd come all this way for nothing. "Come on, Emma," he said quietly. "Let's go." "But we didn't see her yet." "I don't think she's coming." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "But we came so far. We made the card and everything." "I know. I'm sorry." Daniel felt like he was breaking his daughter's heart all over again. Sometimes things don't work out the way we hope. "Can we wait a little longer, please?" Daniel looked at the security guard, who gave a small shrug that seemed to say, "You can wait in the lobby if you want, but it won't change anything." "Okay," Daniel agreed. "A little longer." They sat on a bench near the windows. Emma clutched her card, her flowers wilting slightly in her grip. Daniel stared at his phone, willing it to ring. 25 minutes, 30. Other people came and went, men and women in expensive suits, walking with purpose, barely glancing at the man and little girl waiting on the bench. This was their world, and Daniel and Emma clearly didn't belong in it. At 40 minutes, Emma's tears started falling silently. "I want to go home," she whispered. Daniel's own eyes burned. "Okay, baby, let's go home." They stood to leave, and Daniel took one last look around the lobby, memorizing it so he could tell himself later that at least they'd tried. At least they hadn't wondered. That's when the elevator dinged. Sophia stepped out, and Daniel's heart stopped. She looked different. Her hair was styled in a way he'd never seen, pulled back in a sleek twist. She wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than his monthly rent, with heels that clicked authoritatively on the marble floor. Diamond earrings caught the light. She looked like money, like power, like someone from a completely different world. But when she saw them, her carefully composed expression crumbled. "Daniel?" Her voice cracked. "Emma?" Emma dropped the flowers and ran. Sophia caught her, kneeling on the marble floor in her expensive suit, and Emma threw her arms around her neck. "Sophie, you came! We thought you didn't want to see us." "Oh, sweetheart, of course I wanted to see you. I was in a meeting. They wouldn't interrupt me. I came as soon as I could." Sophia pulled back, touching Emma's face like she couldn't quite believe she was real. "What are you doing here?" "We came to bring you home," Emma announced. "We made you a card and everything, and Daddy bought you flowers, but I dropped them." Sophia looked past Emma to where Daniel stood frozen, still processing the sight of her. Their eyes met, and everything else fell away. She stood slowly, still holding Emma's hand. "You came all the way to Seattle." "Yeah," Daniel managed. "We need to talk." Sophia glanced at the security guard, who was watching with undisguised interest. "Not here. Come upstairs." She led them to the elevator, and as the doors closed, Daniel found himself in a small space with the woman he loved, and no idea what to say. The elevator was silent, except for Emma's sniffles. Sophia kept looking at them like they might disappear, her hand still clasped tight around Emma's. They rode to the 32nd floor. The doors opened onto a reception area even more luxurious than the lobby. Leather furniture, original art, windows overlooking the entire city. A woman in her 50s sat behind a desk, looking startled. "Miss Whitmore, I wasn't aware you were expecting—" "They're with me, Patricia. Hold my calls. But your father wanted to eat. Hold my calls." Patricia's eyebrows rose, but she nodded. "Of course." Sophia led them down a hallway and into a corner office that made Daniel's entire apartment look like a closet. Floor-to-ceiling windows on 2 walls, furniture that was probably worth more than his truck, a desk that could seat 6 people, and photos. Lots of photos. Sophia with various important-looking people, shaking hands, cutting ribbons, accepting awards. But on the credenza behind her desk, Daniel spotted something else. The sketch from the lake, the 3 of them, Daniel, Emma, and Sophia, smiling in the sunshine. She'd framed it. Sophia followed his gaze and flushed. "I couldn't leave it behind." "You kept it," Daniel said softly. "I kept everything, every drawing Emma gave me, every memory." She looked at them helplessly. "What are you doing here? How did you even know where to find me?" "Your letter," Daniel said. "It had the return address." "I shouldn't have sent that. It was selfish. I needed you to know I was thinking about you." "I'm glad you sent it." Daniel took a breath. "Sophia, I need to tell you something. Actually, a lot of things. But they all come down to one thing." Emma tugged on Sophia's hand. "Can I tell her my thing first?" Sophia smiled through tears. "Of course, sweetheart." Emma pulled out the crumpled card from her pocket. "I made this for you. It has all my best drawings, and I used the special glitter, the one that Daddy says gets everywhere and never comes out." Sophia took the card, opening it carefully. Inside, Emma had drawn the apartment with hearts and stars, and written in careful letters, "Please come home. We miss you. Love, Emma and Daddy." "Oh, Emma." Sophia pressed the card to her chest. "This is the most beautiful card I've ever gotten." "Do you like the dragons?" "I put 3 of them because you said purple dragons are lucky." "They're perfect." Sophia knelt down to Emma's level. "Thank you, sweet girl. I love it." "So will you come home?" Emma asked hopefully. Sophia's smile faltered. "Emma, it's not that simple." "Yes, it is." Emma's voice rose. "You're sad here and you were happy with us, so you should come back. That's simple." "Your daddy's right. You are very smart." Sophia touched Emma's cheek. "But sometimes grown-ups have responsibilities. People who need them." "We need you," Emma said firmly. "I know. And I need you too. But No buts. Emma stomped her foot. Daddy said there wouldn't be buts. Emma, Daniel said gently, remember what we talked about? Emma's face crumpled. I know. I know we have to be dignified. But Sophie, I don't want to be dignified. I want you to come home. Sophia looked at Daniel, her eyes swimming with tears. What is she talking about? We made a deal, Daniel explained, that if we came here and you said no, we'd accept it with dignity. No begging. No crying. We just thank you for the time you gave us and leave. But Daddy said I could cry in the car, Emma added. So I'm saving my crying for later. Sophia made a sound between a laugh and a sob. You two are killing me. Then don't make us leave, Emma pleaded. Please, Sophie, please come back. Sweetheart, I can't just... Why not? Emma demanded. You don't like it here. I can tell. You look different. You look like you're wearing someone else's clothes. Sophia stared at Emma in shock. What did you say? You look like you're wearing someone else's clothes, like when I try on Daddy's shirt and it's too big and doesn't fit right. That's how you look now. Sophia sank into her desk chair like her legs had given out. I said that. I said that exact thing to your father about feeling like I was wearing someone else's life. So take it off, Emma said simply. Put on your real clothes and come home. And Daniel watched Sophia process this, saw the longing and fear war on her face. This was the moment when she'd either choose them or choose this world of glass towers and corporate power. He had to give her a reason, had to say what he'd been too afraid to say before. Emma, he said quietly, can you give Sophie and me a minute to talk? Emma looked between them. Is this the part where you tell her the love stuff? Yeah, baby, this is that part. Okay, but don't mess it up, Daddy. She sat down on the couch by the window, still clutching Sophia's card. Daniel turned to Sophia, his heart hammering. I was wrong. That day you left, the things I said, I was angry and scared, and I took it out on you. But the truth is, you didn't ruin my life. You made it better. You made everything better. Daniel, let me finish, please. He moved closer. I let you walk away because I was terrified. Terrified of loving someone again. Terrified of losing them. Terrified that I didn't deserve you. But Emma was right. We should have fought for you. I should have fought for you. Sophia stood, closing the distance between them. I left because I thought I was protecting you. My father, his world. I didn't want it to destroy what we had. It already destroyed it, by taking you away from us. You don't understand. If I come back, he won't stop. He'll keep coming after you, keep trying to force me to return. Let him try. Daniel took her hands. Sophia, I don't care about your father or his money or his power. I care about you. About the woman who made Emma laugh. Who lent me money without hesitation. Who turned our apartment into a home. I'm afraid, she whispered. Afraid that if I choose you, if I choose that life, my father will make you pay for it. And I can't. I can't be responsible for hurting you again. You want to know what hurts? Coming home to an empty apartment? Watching Emma cry herself to sleep. Knowing that somewhere out there you're trapped in a life you hate because you think you're protecting us. Daniel cupped her face gently. That hurts, Sophia. Your absence hurts. Your sacrifice hurts. Having you back, even with all your father's threats, that wouldn't hurt. That would be everything. Tears spilled down Sophia's cheeks. I don't know if I'm strong enough to fight him. You don't have to fight him alone. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Whatever comes, we face it together. Together, she repeated softly, like testing the word. Together. Me, you, and Emma. A family. A family. Sophia looked past him to where Emma sat watching them with barely contained excitement. Is that what we are? That's what we've been since about week 2, Daniel said. I just was too stupid to say it out loud. Sophia laughed through her tears. You're not stupid. You're scared. I understand scared. So be scared with me. Be scared in our apartment where Emma covers everything in glitter and I burn dinner and nothing is perfect, but it's real. I want that, Sophia breathed. I want that so much I can barely stand it. Then come home. Just like that? Walk away from all of this? Why not? You did it once before. That was different. That was running away. This would be choosing, Daniel finished. This would be choosing. Choosing us. Choosing the life you actually want. Sophia looked around her office, at the expensive furniture, the awards, the trappings of success she'd never asked for. Then she looked at Daniel, at Emma bouncing excitedly on the couch, at the sketch of them at the lake. I already chose, she said quietly. I chose 3 months ago when I answered your ad. I chose every time I made dinner or helped Emma with her homework or sat with you in the kitchen at 2 in the morning. I just didn't have the courage to make it permanent. And now? Sophia met his eyes and Daniel saw determination replace the fear. Now I'm done being afraid. She crossed to her desk and pressed the intercom button. Patricia, cancel my afternoon meetings. Actually, cancel everything for the next week. Patricia's voice crackled back, alarmed. Miss Whitmore, you have the board presentation on Tuesday, and your father specifically requested, tell the board I'll send my notes by email. And tell my father, Sophia paused, her hand finding Daniel's. Tell my father that his daughter quit. Silence. Then, I'm sorry, did you say quit? Quit. Resigned. I'm done, Patricia. Effective immediately. But, Miss Whitmore, I'll send a formal letter on Monday. Right now, I'm going home. She clicked off the intercom before Patricia could respond. Emma jumped up from the couch. Does that mean you're coming with us? Sophia laughed, the sound free and light. If you'll still have me. Yes! Emma threw herself at Sophia. Yes, yes, yes! Daniel felt something unlock in his chest, something that had been tight and painful for weeks. Are you sure about this? Not even a little bit, Sophia admitted, but I've never been more sure that I want to try. A sharp knock interrupted them. The door opened without waiting for permission, and a man in his 60s strode in. He was tall, silver-haired, with Sophia's eyes and a presence that filled the room like a physical force. Jonathan Whitmore had arrived. Sophia, he said, his voice controlled but dangerous. Patricia said you were making a scene. I think we need to talk. Sophia straightened and Daniel felt her grip his hand tighter. There's nothing to talk about, Dad. I'm leaving. Jonathan's eyes swept over Daniel and Emma with cold assessment. I see. And these are the people you're throwing your life away for? I'm not throwing anything away. I'm choosing what makes me happy. Happy. Jonathan said the word like it was foreign. You've been back for 6 weeks, Sophia. 6 weeks and you're already running again? I'm not running. I'm walking away. There's a difference. Is there? He turned his full attention to Daniel. And you? You think you can give my daughter what she needs? A mechanic living paycheck to paycheck? Dad, Sophia warned. But Daniel stepped forward. I can't give her wealth or power or whatever else you think she needs, but I can give her a place where she's valued for who she is, not what she represents, where she can be herself without performing, where she's loved without conditions. Jonathan's expression didn't change. Love. How wonderfully naive. Love doesn't pay bills. Love doesn't build empires. Love doesn't matter to you, Sophia cut in. I get it, Dad. I've always gotten it, but it matters to me. And I'm done living my life by your values. You're making a mistake. Maybe. But it's my mistake to make. Father and daughter faced each other, and Daniel saw decades of conflict in that single look. If you walk out that door, Jonathan said quietly, I won't come after you again. No pressure, no manipulation. But I also won't bail you out when this fantasy falls apart. I don't need you to bail me out. You're still on the company health insurance, still have access to the trust fund, still legally part of this family's financial structure. Sophia pulled her wallet from her purse and removed a credit card, placing it on her desk. Then another, and another. Consider me officially removed from the financial structure. Jonathan stared at the cards. You're serious? I've never been more serious about anything in my life. Something flickered across Jonathan's face, surprise maybe, or something that might have been respect. You're really choosing them over everything I've built for you. I'm choosing me, Dad. For the first time in my life, I'm choosing what I actually want. Jonathan was silent for a long moment. Then he picked up the credit cards and slipped them into his pocket. I hope they're worth it. They are. He walked to the door, then paused. Sophia, I built this company for you. Everything I did was to give you opportunities, security. I know, and I'm grateful. But I never wanted it. You built a legacy for someone I was never going to be. Jonathan's jaw tightened. Then, without another word, he left. The office felt impossibly quiet in his wake. Sophia sagged against Daniel, and he caught her, holding her steady. Did I really just do that? She whispered. You really did. I quit my job and told off my father and threw away credit cards like some dramatic movie moment. It was pretty dramatic, Daniel agreed. Sophia pulled back, laughing and crying at the same time. I don't have a job. I don't have money. I don't have health insurance. You have us. That's not very practical. No, Daniel smiled, but it's real. Emma tugged on Sophia's jacket. Can we go home now? This place makes me nervous. Sophia looked around her office one last time, at the life she was leaving behind. Then she grabbed her purse, took Emma's hand, and smiled. Yeah, sweetheart, let's go home. They walked out of Whitmore Global together, and with each step away from that glass tower, Daniel watched Sophia transform. She kicked off her heels in the elevator, holding them in one hand while Emma held the other. By the time they reached the lobby, her carefully styled hair was coming loose from its twist. In the parking garage, she shrugged out of her suit jacket and tossed it in the back of Daniel's truck. I hated that jacket, she said, climbing into the passenger seat in just her blouse and slacks. It cost $3,000 and it felt like a straitjacket. Emma scrambled into the middle seat between them. $3,000 for a jacket? That's crazy. It really is, Sophia agreed, and she was smiling now, genuinely smiling in a way Daniel hadn't seen in her office. As Daniel navigated out of downtown Seattle, Sophia pulled the pins from her hair and let it fall loose around her shoulders. She rolled down the window despite the cool air, breathing in deeply like she'd been holding her breath for weeks. Are you okay? Daniel asked. I don't know yet, she said honestly. Ask me again in a few hours when the adrenaline wears off and I realize what I just did. You were really brave back there. I was terrified. I'm still terrified. She looked at him. But being terrified and being brave aren't mutually exclusive, right? Not even a little bit. Emma leaned against Sophia's shoulder. I'm glad you're coming home, Sophie. Sophia wrapped an arm around her. Me too, sweet girl. Me too. They drove south in comfortable silence, the Seattle skyline disappearing behind them. About 30 minutes into the drive, Sophia's phone started ringing. She pulled it from her purse, looked at the screen, and turned it off completely. Your father? Daniel guessed. My father, my brother, probably half the board by now. She dropped the phone back in her purse. They can wait. Right now, I just want to enjoy the drive. But Daniel saw the way her hands trembled slightly, saw the tension she was trying to hide. Walking away from your entire life, even a life you didn't want, wasn't easy. It would catch up with her eventually. For now, though, he let her have this moment, this breath of freedom before reality set in. They stopped for lunch at a diner off I-5, the kind of place with vinyl booths and laminated menus and coffee that tasted like it had been sitting on the burner too long. Sophia ordered a cheeseburger and fries, and when it arrived, she took a huge bite and closed her eyes. What? Daniel asked, amused. I haven't had a cheeseburger in 6 weeks. Everything at the office was catered salads and grilled chicken and things that cost $40 a plate but left you hungry. This is way better than $40 chicken, Emma agreed through a mouthful of grilled cheese. Sophia laughed, and the sound was so light and free that it made Daniel's chest ache. This was the woman he'd fallen in love with. Not the polished executive in the expensive suit, but this, messy hair and simple food and genuine laughter. As they ate, Sophia asked Emma about school, about her friends, about what she'd been doing for the past 6 weeks. Emma filled her in on everything with the detailed enthusiasm only a 6-year-old could muster. And Daddy took me to the park every weekend, but it wasn't the same without you because you're better at pushing the swings and you don't get nervous when I go too high. I do not get nervous, Daniel protested. You totally do. You make this face. Emma scrunched up her face in what was apparently her impression of worried Daniel. Sophia giggled. That's actually pretty accurate. Whose side are you on? Emma's. Always Emma's. They finished lunch and got back on the road. Emma fell asleep about 20 minutes later, her head on Sophia's lap. Sophia stroked her hair absently, staring out the window. "What are you thinking?" Daniel asked quietly. "That I don't know what happens next. I don't have a job. I don't have income. I have some savings, but not much. Most of my money was tied up in trusts and accounts controlled by my father. We'll figure it out." "How? Daniel, I can't just move back into your spare room and freeload while I get my life together. That's not fair to you." "Who said anything about the spare room?" Sophia looked at him sharply. "What?" Daniel's heart hammered, but he'd come this far. Might as well go all in. "I meant what I said in your office, about being a family, about facing things together. And families don't usually live in separate rooms." "Daniel, are you saying—" "I'm saying I love you." The words came easier this time. "I've loved you probably since that night you cried in your room and I made you terrible tea. And if you're coming back, I don't want you as my tenant. I want you as my—" He struggled for the right word. "Partner?" Sophia offered softly. "Yeah, partner, if you want that too." Sophia was quiet for so long that Daniel started to panic. Maybe he'd pushed too hard. Maybe she needed time. Maybe walking away from her old life didn't automatically mean walking into his arms. Then she said, "I've been in love with you since you told me to let someone help me. Since you looked at me like I was worth fighting for, even when I couldn't fight for myself." Relief flooded through Daniel so intensely he had to focus on keeping the truck steady. "So is that a yes?" "That's a yes. To being partners. To figuring out the next part together. To all of it." Daniel reached across Emma's sleeping form and took Sophia's hand. She laced her fingers through his and held on tight. They arrived back in Portland as the sun was starting to set. The apartment building had never looked so good. As they climbed the stairs, Emma now awake and chattering excitedly, Daniel felt something settle into place. Something that had been off-kilter for weeks finally righting itself. Sophia stood in the doorway of the apartment, still holding her expensive heels in one hand, looking around like she was seeing it for the first time. "It's smaller than I remembered," she said. "Yeah, well, compared to your corner office—" "No." She cut him off. "I meant it feels smaller because I'd built it up so much in my mind. I'd remembered it as this perfect place. But now I'm here, and it's just home. Regular, imperfect, wonderful home." Emma ran to her room and came back dragging something. "Look, I kept your dragon drawing on my wall, and I took really good care of it." Sophia knelt down to examine it. "You did a beautiful job. Thank you for keeping it safe." "Are you going to keep your room?" Emma asked. "Or are you going to sleep in Daddy's room now? Because Jessica's mom and her boyfriend sleep in the same room, and Jessica says that means they really love each other." Daniel and Sophia looked at each other, both trying not to laugh. "We'll figure that out," Sophia said diplomatically. "But first, I think I need to get out of these work clothes and into something that doesn't cost more than a car payment." She disappeared into her old room, her room again now, and emerged 10 minutes later in jeans and a soft sweater, her hair in a messy ponytail. She looked like the Sophia from before, the real Sophia. "Better?" Daniel asked. "So much better. I can actually breathe in these clothes." That evening, they ordered pizza and sat around the kitchen table like they used to. Emma talked nonstop about everything Sophia had missed. Daniel found himself just watching them, hardly believing this was real, that she'd actually come back, that she'd chosen this life. After Emma went to bed, insisting that both Daniel and Sophia read her a bedtime story, Daniel and Sophia ended up on the couch with tea that was only slightly less terrible than the batch he'd made months ago. "So," Sophia said, curling her feet under her, "what happens on Monday when I have to figure out real life again?" "You mean when the panic sets in?" "Exactly that." Daniel thought about it. "Well, you said you have some savings. How long could you survive on that?" "Maybe 3 months, if I'm careful. Less if I'm actually paying rent here." "So, for 3 months, you focus on building your freelance business. You've got a portfolio, right? Work you've done?" "Yeah, but it's been 6 weeks since I took on any real clients. I don't know if—" "So you start taking them on again. You reach out to small businesses. You network. You do what you were doing before." "It's not that simple. The graphic design world is competitive. It takes time to build up steady income." "Then we'll make it work until you do. Morrison's been talking about needing someone to handle the shop's books and scheduling. It doesn't pay much, but it's something. And between that and my salary, we can cover the basics while you get established. Sophia looked at him with wonder. You've really thought about this. I've thought about nothing but this for weeks. How to make it work if you came back. All the different scenarios. He took her hand. I know it won't be easy. I know money will be tight, but we were managing before you came, and we'll manage now, just maybe with fewer pizza nights and more mac and cheese. I love mac and cheese, Sophia said, and he could hear the tears in her voice. Good, because Emma insists on it at least twice a week. Sophia laughed and cried at the same time. I can't believe this is my life now. Yesterday I was in board meetings discussing quarterly projections. Today I'm planning a budget around mac and cheese dinners. Regrets? Not even one. She leaned her head on his shoulder. But ask me again in a week when the reality really sinks in. I'll ask you every day if you need me to. They sat in comfortable silence, and Daniel felt the rightness of this moment down to his bones. This was where Sophia belonged, where they all belonged. But the peace didn't last long. On Sunday morning, there was a knock at the door. Daniel opened it to find a courier with a large envelope addressed to Sophia Whitmore. Sophia took it with shaking hands. Inside were legal documents, thick, official, intimidating. It's from my father's attorney, she said, scanning the pages. He's officially removing me from all family trusts, the company board, and the will. I'm completely cut off financially. That was fast. He's nothing if not efficient. Sophia's voice was steady, but Daniel saw her hands trembling. This makes it real. I'm actually on my own. You're not on your own. You have us. I know. She sat down heavily at the kitchen table. I knew this would happen, but seeing it in writing is different. He really meant it. He's done with me. Daniel sat beside her. Is that what you want? To be done with him? I don't know. He's my father. Even when he's controlling and manipulative and impossible, he's still my father. Part of me hoped that maybe he'd come around, that maybe he'd respect my choice. Give him time. Maybe he will. You don't know him like I do. Jonathan Whitmore doesn't come around. He digs in and waits for the other person to break. She looked at the papers again. This is his final word on the subject. Emma wandered in, rubbing sleep from her eyes. Why does everyone look sad? Not sad, Sophia said quickly. Just dealing with some grown-up paperwork. Is it about your mean dad? Sophia blinked. I never said my dad was mean. You didn't have to, I could tell. He made you sad, and that means he's mean. Emma's logic was simple and absolute. But you don't need him anyway. You have us. You're absolutely right. Sophia pulled Emma into a hug. I have you, and that's better than anything he could give me. The next few weeks were an adjustment for everyone. Sophia threw herself into rebuilding her freelance career, reaching out to old clients and taking on new projects. She set up a workspace in the corner of the living room, just a desk and her laptop, but it was hers. Money was tight. Daniel picked up extra shifts when he could. Sophia took jobs that didn't pay much but built her portfolio. They learned to budget carefully, to plan meals around sales, to make every dollar stretch. Emma adapted fastest, thrilled to have Sophia back full-time. She'd drag her homework to Sophia's desk and work alongside her, both of them focused and quiet, until Emma would break the silence with questions about dragons, or why clouds floated, or whether fish got thirsty. One evening, about 3 weeks after Sophia's return, Daniel came home to find her staring at her laptop with an expression he couldn't read. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. Something's weird. She turned the screen toward him. I just got an email from a client I worked with before, a tech startup in Portland. They want me to redesign their entire brand identity, logo, website, marketing materials, everything. That's great. It pays $30,000. Daniel's eyes widened. $30,000? For one project, 3 months of work, but still. That's more than I made freelancing in the entire year before I went back to my father. So what's weird about it? Sophia bit her lip. I'm wondering if my father had something to do with it. If he's trying to help without admitting he's helping. Would he do that? I don't know, maybe. He's been completely silent since I left. No calls, no emails, nothing. And now suddenly this huge opportunity appears out of nowhere? Does it matter? If the job is legitimate and they want you, does it matter how they found you? Sophia thought about it. No, I guess it doesn't. Even if he did recommend me, I still have to do the work. I still have to earn it. Then accept it. Take the job. And if it came from your father, maybe that's his way of saying he doesn't hate you. Sophia accepted the project, and it turned out to be exactly what she needed. The work was challenging and creative, and the client loved everything she produced. By the time she finished 2 months later, she'd built a reputation strong enough that other companies started reaching out. Within 6 months, Sophia's freelance business was thriving. She was making enough to not only pay rent, but contribute to household expenses, save money, and even splurge occasionally on things like new art supplies for Emma or a nice dinner out. Morrison did end up hiring her part-time to handle the garage's books, which she did 2 afternoons a week between design projects. She'd sit in his cramped office surrounded by the smell of motor oil and old coffee, and she'd tell Daniel she'd never been happier. "You're doing accounting in a garage, Shub," he pointed out. "6 months ago, you had a corner office overlooking Seattle." "6 months ago, I was miserable," she countered. "Now I'm happy. That's not a hard choice." Life settled into a new rhythm. Daniel and Sophia figured out their relationship through trial and error, learning how to be partners in all the ways that mattered. They moved Sophia's things into Daniel's room one Sunday afternoon, while Emma supervised and offered helpful suggestions like, "You should put all your shirts with Daddy's shirts so they can be friends." Emma flourished with both of them there. Her grades improved. She made new friends. She seemed more confident, more secure. Having 2 adults who loved her unconditionally gave her a foundation that Daniel alone had struggled to provide. The spare room became an art studio that Emma and Sophia shared. They'd spend hours in there together, Emma painting wild, abstract pieces while Sophia worked on client illustrations, both of them covered in paint and perfectly content. One Saturday morning, about 8 months after Sophia's return, Daniel woke to the smell of pancakes. He found Emma and Sophia in the kitchen, flour everywhere as usual, laughing about something. "What's the occasion?" he asked. "No occasion," Sophia said. "Just wanted pancakes." But there was something in her expression, something nervous and excited at the same time. After breakfast, while Emma was distracted with cartoons, Sophia pulled Daniel aside. "I got something in the mail yesterday," she said quietly. "I wanted to wait until we were alone to tell you." Worry spiked through him. "What is it?" She handed him a letter. It was from Jonathan Whitmore, his personal stationery, handwritten in careful script. "Sophia, I hope this letter finds you well. I've been following your work from a distance. The Miller Tech rebrand was impressive. You have genuine talent that I never properly acknowledged. I won't apologize for how things ended. I did what I thought was necessary, and I stand by my decisions. But I also recognize that I may have been too rigid in my expectations of what your life should look like. You've built something real in the past 8 months. Something that belongs to you. I respect that, even if I don't fully understand it. I'm not asking you to come back. I'm not asking for forgiveness or reconciliation. I'm simply acknowledging that you were right. You needed to make your own choices. If you ever want to talk, my door is open. Not as your employer or the head of the family business, but as your father. Dad." Daniel read it twice. "Wow. I know. Are you going to respond?" "I don't know yet. Part of me wants to. Part of me is still angry at him for all of it." Sophia sat on the couch, and Daniel joined her. "But Emma said something the other day that stuck with me. She asked if my dad would ever meet her, if he'd ever want to know who she was." "What did you say?" "I said I didn't know. And she said that was sad, because she bet he'd like her if he gave her a chance, that she's very likable when people get to know her." Daniel smiled. "She's not wrong." "No, she's not. And it made me think I don't want Emma to grow up believing that family only works if everyone agrees, that love is conditional on obedience. I want her to see that you can disagree with people and still care about them." "So you're going to write back?" "Maybe. Eventually. Not yet, though. I need more time." She leaned against him. "Is that okay? That I'm not ready to forgive him?" "You can take all the time you need. He hurt you. He tried to control your life. You don't owe him instant forgiveness just because he wrote a nice letter." "Thank you," Sophia kissed his cheek, "for understanding, for always understanding." That evening, Daniel and Sophia took a walk after Emma went to bed. It was a warm night, early summer, and the neighborhood was quiet. They walked hand in hand to the park a few blocks away. "You know what I realized today?" Sophia said as they sat on a bench overlooking the playground where Emma liked to play. "What?" "A year ago, I had everything according to my father's definition: money, status, a corner office, a place in the family empire, and I was so lonely I could barely function. And now? Now I have a shared bedroom in a small apartment. I work at a garage 2 afternoons a week. My biggest splurge is ordering pizza instead of cooking, and I've never been less lonely in my life." Daniel pulled her closer. "Funny how that works." "It's not funny. It's miraculous." She looked at him seriously. "You and Emma saved my life, Daniel. I mean that literally. If I'd stayed in that world much longer, I don't know what would have happened to me." "You would have survived. You're stronger than you think." "Maybe. But I wouldn't have lived. There's a difference." She rested her head on his shoulder. "I'm living now, really living, and it's messy and complicated and sometimes scary, but it's mine. We built this together." "We did," Daniel agreed. They sat in comfortable silence, watching fireflies begin to emerge in the growing darkness. Daniel thought about the past year, about the desperate night when he'd posted that ad for a tenant, about the woman who'd shown up with 2 bags and secrets she couldn't share, about how she'd transformed their lives without even trying. "I love you," he said quietly. "I love you too." "No, I mean," he struggled to find the words. "I love you in a way that scares me sometimes. In a way that makes me understand why people write songs and poems and make complete fools of themselves. You've become so essential that I can't imagine life without you." Sophia lifted her head to look at him, her eyes bright. "Is this leading somewhere specific?" Daniel's heart hammered. He hadn't planned this, didn't have a ring or a romantic setup, but suddenly he couldn't imagine waiting another day. "Marry me," he said. Sophia went very still. "What?" "Marry me. Be my wife. Make this permanent. Make us official." The words tumbled out faster now. "I know we haven't been together that long. I know money is still tight and we're still figuring things out. But Sophia, I don't want to wait. I don't want to wonder. I want you to be my family legally and officially and in every way that matters. Daniel, you don't have to answer now. You can think about it. You can—" "Yes." He stopped mid-sentence. "What?" "Yes, I'll marry you." Sophia was crying and laughing at the same time. "Of course I'll marry you. I'd marry you tomorrow if we could figure out the paperwork that fast." Daniel kissed her, and it felt like coming home. Like every good thing he'd ever hoped for, crystallizing into this one perfect moment. When they finally pulled apart, Sophia was grinning. "Emma is going to lose her mind when we tell her. She's going to demand to be involved in every detail of the planning. Obviously, she'll probably insist on purple dragons somewhere in the ceremony. I would expect nothing less." They walked home through the warm night, making plans and laughing and dreaming about the future. When they got back to the apartment, they found Emma still awake, sitting on the couch with a book. "You're supposed to be asleep," Daniel said. "I was waiting for you." Emma set down her book. "You both look happy. Did something good happen?" Daniel and Sophia exchanged glances. "Want to tell her?" he asked. "Together," Sophia decided. They sat on either side of Emma, who looked between them with growing excitement. "Sophie and I have some news," Daniel started. "Are we getting a puppy?" Emma asked hopefully. "Not a puppy. Something better." Emma's eyes went wide. "Better than a puppy? Nothing's better than a puppy." Sophia laughed. "What if I told you that I'm going to be part of your family forever? Officially?" "You're already part of our family." "I know, but this would make it legal. Daniel asked me to marry him, and I said yes, which means I'll be your stepmom." Emma processed this, her expression serious. Then she threw her arms around both of them. "This is way better than a puppy. Can I help plan the wedding? Can I wear a fancy dress? Can there be cake?" "Yes to all of that," Daniel assured her. "And dragons?" Sophia grinned. "At least 3. Emma squealed with delight, and Daniel felt his heart so full it might burst. This was everything he'd been too afraid to hope for a year ago. They planned a simple wedding for late fall, just close friends, held at the park where Daniel had first told Sophia he loved her, Emma insisted on being the flower girl and spent weeks practicing walking slowly while scattering petals. Morrison offered to give Sophia away, which made her cry. "You're the closest thing to a father figure I've got in Portland," she told him. "It would mean the world to me." The ceremony was small and perfect. Emma wore a purple dress that she'd picked out herself and scattered rose petals with intense concentration. Sophia wore a simple white dress that she'd found at a vintage shop, and when Daniel saw her walking toward him, he understood why people cried at weddings. They exchanged vows they'd written themselves. Daniel promised to always make terrible tea and never stop fighting for their happiness. Sophia promised to fill their home with love and laughter and the occasional $3,000 mistake she'd learned from. When the officiant pronounced them married, Emma cheered louder than anyone. The reception was at their apartment, crammed full of people, too much food, music playing from someone's phone. It was chaotic and imperfect and absolutely right. Late in the evening, as guests were leaving, Sophia stepped out onto the small balcony for some air. Daniel joined her, loosening his tie. "Hey, Mrs. Brooks," he said. She smiled. "Hey yourself, Mr. Brooks. Having fun?" "The best time." She leaned into him. "Thank you for this, for all of it, for seeing me when I was invisible, for fighting for me when I couldn't fight for myself, for building this life with me. You did half the building. We make a good team. The best team." They stood together watching the city lights, and Daniel thought about the journey that had brought them here. From a desperate ad for a tenant to this moment, from strangers to family, from empty rooms to a home filled with love. "You know what the best part is?" Sophia asked. "What?" "This is just the beginning. We get the rest of our lives to figure out what comes next. Any ideas?" "A few, but I think we should probably focus on one thing at a time." "Probably wise." Emma stuck her head out onto the balcony. "Are you guys being mushy? Mrs. Patterson says married people are always mushy." "Very mushy," Sophia confirmed. "Come be mushy with us." Emma squeezed between them, and they stood together, a family, official and legal and real, looking out at the world that had tried to keep them apart and failed. 6 months later, Sophia received another letter from her father. This one was shorter. "Sophia, I hear congratulations are in order. Morrison mentioned your wedding when we spoke last week. I wish you and your family happiness. Perhaps someday I could meet them. Dad." Sophia showed the letter to Daniel and Emma over breakfast. "He talks to Morrison?" Daniel asked, surprised. "Apparently. I think he's been keeping tabs on me through him." Sophia folded the letter carefully. "He wants to meet you both." "Do you want that?" Daniel asked. Sophia looked at Emma, who was eating cereal and listening intently. "What do you think, Em? Want to meet my father?" Emma considered this seriously. "Is he still mean?" "I don't know if he was ever really mean, just controlling and scared in his own way." "Then I'll meet him. But if he's mean to you, I'll tell him that's not okay. Because you're my mom now, and I protect my mom." Sophia's eyes filled with tears. Emma had started calling her mom a few weeks after the wedding, tentatively at first, then with growing confidence. Every time she said it, Sophia felt her heart grow 3 sizes. "Okay," Sophia said, "we'll invite him to visit. Give him a chance." Jonathan Whitmore came to Portland on a Saturday in early spring. He arrived in a town car, looking out of place in his expensive suit in their modest neighborhood. But when Emma opened the door and announced, "Hi, I'm Emma and you must be Grandpa," something in his expression softened. "Grandpa?" he repeated. "I suppose I am." The afternoon was awkward at times. Jonathan struggled with small talk and didn't know what to do when Emma showed him her rock collection. But when Sophia walked him through her design portfolio, Daniel saw pride in the older man's eyes. "You've done well for yourself," Jonathan said quietly. "Really well. This is good work, Sophia." "Thank you, Dad." They didn't solve years of hurt in one afternoon, but they started. They found a fragile peace based on mutual respect rather than control. As Jonathan was leaving, he pulled Sophia aside. "I was wrong," he said, "about many things, about what I thought you needed, about what would make you happy. It's okay. It's not okay. But perhaps with time, it can be forgiven." He glanced back at the apartment where Daniel and Emma were cleaning up lunch dishes. "They're good people. You chose well." "I chose love," Sophia said. Finally. Jonathan nodded slowly. Then you chose right. After he left, Sophia found Daniel and Emma on the couch. How did it go? Daniel asked. Better than expected. Not perfect, but better. She sat between them. He apologized. That's big. It is. Sophia took a breath. I think maybe we can find our way back to some kind of relationship. Different than before, but something. Is that what you want? I want Emma to know her grandfather. I want my father to see what I've built. And I want to believe that people can change, even when it's hard. Emma cuddled against her. I liked Grandpa. He was nervous, but nice. He was nervous, Sophia agreed. Meeting you is probably the scariest thing he's done in years. Why? I'm not scary. No, baby, you're perfect. But sometimes perfect things are the most frightening of all. Life continued its forward march. Sophia's business grew. Daniel got promoted to shop manager at Morrison's. Emma thrived in school and started talking about becoming an artist or a dragon trainer, whichever worked out first. They had good days and hard days. Money was sometimes tight. The apartment sometimes felt too small. They argued about whose turn it was to do dishes and whether Emma could have a pet dragon. The answer remained a firm no. But through it all, they had each other. 2 years after Sophia moved back in, Daniel came home to find her sitting at the kitchen table with a strange expression. What's wrong? He asked immediately. Nothing's wrong. Something's different. She held up a small plastic stick. I'm pregnant. The world tilted. You're what? Pregnant, as in we're having a baby. Daniel sat down hard in the nearest chair. A baby. I know we didn't plan this. I know the timing isn't perfect. I know the apartment is already cramped. A baby, Daniel repeated, and this time there was wonder in his voice. We're having a baby. Sophia's nervous expression transformed into a brilliant smile. We're having a baby. Emma walked in on them, hugging and crying and laughing all at once. Why is everyone being weird? Come here, dragon girl, Daniel said, pulling her into their embrace. You're going to be a big sister. Emma's face went through several emotions in rapid succession: confusion, realization, and finally pure joy. I'm getting a baby sister? Or brother, Sophia corrected. We don't know yet. When? In about 7 months. 7 months, and Emma was already making plans. I need to clean my room so the baby has space, and I should draw pictures for their wall, and teach them about dragons. Babies need to know about dragons, right? Absolutely, Sophia agreed. Babies definitely need to know about dragons. That evening, after Emma finally fell asleep still talking about baby names and nursery colors, Daniel and Sophia lay in bed together. Are you scared? Sophia asked. Terrified, Daniel admitted. The apartment really is too small for 4 people, and money is going to be even tighter, and I barely survived Emma's baby years the first time. But I can't wait to do it with you. To watch you be a mother from the very beginning, to give Emma a sibling. He placed his hand on Sophia's still flat stomach. To meet this person we made together. Sophia covered his hand with hers. We'll figure it out. We always do. Yeah, we will. 7 months later, on a cold December morning, Sophia gave birth to a baby boy they named James. Emma declared him wrinkly but cute and immediately started teaching him about dragons, despite the fact that he was 3 hours old and could barely focus his eyes. Jonathan came to visit the next week, holding his grandson with surprising gentleness. He has your mother's eyes, he told Sophia quietly. He does, she agreed. I wish she could have met him. She would have loved all of this. The chaos, the cramped apartment, the happiness. Jonathan looked around at the small hospital room crammed with flowers and balloons, and Emma's drawings taped to every surface. She always said love mattered more than legacy. She was right. She usually was. They moved to a slightly bigger apartment when James was 6 months old, still modest, still in the same neighborhood, but with enough room for everyone to breathe. Emma got her own room finally, which she decorated entirely in purple and dragon-themed everything. James's nursery was painted with stars that Daniel and Sophia spent an entire weekend carefully stenciling. Life was beautifully chaotic. Sophia worked from home around James's nap schedule. Daniel brought home stories from the garage. Emma started second grade and announced she wanted to be a graphic designer, like her mom. On their third wedding anniversary, Daniel and Sophia stood in their tiny kitchen, the same kitchen where Sophia had once made her first dinner for them, where Emma had learned to help cook, where they'd shared 1,000 meals and conversations. "You know what I was thinking about today?" Sophia said, washing dishes while Daniel dried. "What's that?" "That ad you posted. Quiet place, shared kitchen, no drama." Daniel laughed. "We failed spectacularly at the no drama part." "We really did, between my father and the corporate intrigue and the bank account freezing, and the grand gesture in Seattle," Daniel added, "and the surprise pregnancy. So much drama, the best drama." Sophia handed him the last plate. "But you know what? We got the other parts right. It is quiet sometimes. We do share the kitchen. And even with all the drama, this is still the most peaceful place I've ever been." Daniel pulled her close. "That's because home isn't about the space. It's about the people. Look at you being all wise." "I have my moments." From the living room, they heard Emma reading to James, her voice patient as she explained why the dragon in her picture was definitely friendly and definitely purple. "Our kids are perfect," Sophia murmured. "They really are. We did good. We did great." They stood together in their small kitchen in their small apartment, holding each other while their children played in the next room, and it was everything. It was messy and imperfect and sometimes overwhelming, but it was real. It was theirs. It was home. And 3 years after Sophia first answered an ad for a quiet room with no drama, she finally had exactly what she'd been searching for all along. A place where she belonged, people who loved her for exactly who she was, and a life built on choice rather than obligation. The spare room was never rented again. Sometimes it was an office, sometimes a playroom, sometimes just storage. But it would always be the room where their story began, where a desperate father and a runaway heiress took a chance on each other and built something neither of them had been brave enough to dream of. Years later, when Emma asked about how Daniel and Sophia met, they'd tell her the truth about the ad, the coffee shop meeting, the 3 months of careful friendship that became something more, about hard choices and brave decisions and love that refused to be practical. And Emma, older now and wise in her own way, would say what she always said. "See? I told you Sophie belonged with us from the very beginning. It just took you guys a while to figure it out." She wasn't wrong. Some people spend their whole lives searching for home. Sophia found hers in a 2-bedroom apartment with a man who made terrible tea and a little girl who believed in dragons. And once she found it, she never let go. That, in the end, was the real story. Not about money or power or corporate empires, but about a woman who learned to choose happiness over obligation, about a man who learned to let people help him, and about a little girl who understood all along that family wasn't about blood or wealth. It was about showing up, holding on, and loving each other through every messy, imperfect, beautiful moment. And they lived, not happily ever after because life was never that simple, but they lived fully, authentically, and together, which was better than any fairy tale ending could ever be.